Chapter 1520. When Moon's Song first met Long Yu and Red Oriole, she had already awakened her divine absolute beginning skill to the 11th level. Now, the divine absolute beginning crescent wheel around her body had finally awakened to the 12th level. She immediately used the 12th level awakening skill, Star Rupture. Boundless starry divine runes condensed together, forming a resplendent star in midair. Then, this resplendent star landed on the ice god race's body and immediately exploded. The terrifying destructive power immediately caused the ice god race's hexagonal crystal body to explode. In the end, the ice god wasn't devoured by Long Yu's 9 underworld sphere. Instead, Moonsong Star Rupture completely killed it without any room for struggle. Even though the Ice God clan had activated their defensive means at the last moment, they were still unable to withstand the star explosion. When a divine grade absolute beginning skill was awakened to the next level, the first awakening skill was usually shockingly powerful. Moonsong condensed the power of Starburst into an extremely small space and easily killed the Ice God clan. The crescent wheel continued to condense boundless divine star runes. Not only did it kill the Ice God in front of her, but also rushed into the battlefield and posed a threat to the other 3 Ice God Great Sovereigns. As soon as the Ice God died, the divine star runes binding Long Yu and the others disappeared. Whether it was Red Oriole, Long Yu, or Consort Yu, all 3 of them used their strongest techniques to deal with the Ice God in front of them. If they dragged this out for too long, the situation would be very disadvantageous for them. The other party was clearly enraged by the death of one. Boundless divine star runes condensed and exploded on the battlefield, continuously rushing over. However, Consort Yu's immortal demon barrier blocked it, unable to harm the 3 of them at all. Red Oriole continued to cooperate with Long Yu. The Boundless Grasp was a technique that was used 3 times in a row, directly dealing mental and spiritual damage to the 6th-phase sovereign, the Ice God race. Immediately afterwards, Red Oriole used the demonic Shadow Bind, completely binding the Ice God race member whose strength had been sealed. The gigantic blood-red sword descended with a loud rumble. The awakening skill of the Demon Blood 6 Wings, which had been awakened to the 12th level, flew out of Red Oriole's hands. It was not blocked by the physical body of the Ice God. Instead, it directly pierced through the Ice God, bringing out the mind and soul of the Ice God, completely shattering it. Red Oriole also killed an Ice God and received 10 points. Following that, Yu-Fei suppressed a peak 7th stage Sovereign Realm expert from the Ice God race. The injured peak 7th stage Sovereign Realm expert from the Ice God race was left to Long Yu to kill. The 2 peak 7th phase Great Sovereign Realm Ice God race experts were thinking of running away. Unfortunately, with Long Yu's absolute space domain, how could they let them escape? Everyone continued to chase. Finally, Long Yu used 4 symbols Death Prison to kill his opponent. Seeing the opponent's body being absorbed by the eroding moon ancient domain in a flash of white light, Long Yu's heart ached. As for Yu-Fei, it wasn't too much of a problem for her to deal with a peak 7th stage Sovereign Realm Ice God race expert by herself. Following closely behind, Long Yu finished off his opponent. Coincidentally, all 4 of them had obtained 10 points in this pursuit. However, just as Concubine Yu was about to finish off the last 7th phase dominator, the Ice God clan, 2 other squads of outsiders happened to come into contact with Long Yu's absolute space domain. It seemed as if they were trying to pass by, but were blocked. After Consort Yu killed her opponent, Long Yu immediately put away the Dragon Bone Ancient Tower. The absolute space domain also disappeared, making the 2 foreign race squads extremely angry. In this chaotic competition stage, who would want to be blocked by other people's methods? Not wanting to face the anger of the 2 foreign race squads, she immediately teleported forward with the 3 of them. In a flash, she crossed a kilometer, leaving behind a string of resplendent starry divine characters. Another 10 points were deducted from the 4 of them. She only had 36 points left. The situation was a bit urgent, but this place shouldn't be too far from the advancement area. Everyone continued to move forward. Soon, Long Yu saw a silver six-wing clan and a golden six-wing clan. They were opening an amethyst box. Seeing this scene, Long Yu and the others could only retreat far away. He didn't want to fight with them at this time. It was obvious that the other party wanted to attack Long Yu and the others. Unfortunately, Long Yu and the others immediately retreated and teleported forward. Soon, they disappeared without a trace. The two six-wing clan members couldn't do anything to Long Yu. Do we really need to be afraid of them? Red Oriole asked doubtfully. Of course. Although I can only see and not sense their strength in the hive, I know their strength. They're definitely not something we can deal with now. It's better to be safe. Long Yu said in a deep voice. That's right. After all, the Six-Wing Clan is one of the three strongest clans in the Langustar region. Each of them is extremely powerful, not to mention the strength of that golden Six-Wing Clan. I'm afraid it has already reached the top 10 among the more than 9,000 people in the Langi Galaxy. Consort nodded and said solemnly, even that silver Six-Wing Clan strength is not much different from mine. If we fight against those two six-winged clan members, we definitely won't be able to win. We are bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Moonsong pursed her lips and smiled. Who doesn't bully the weak and fear the strong? Long Yu smiled. If those two six-winged beasts encountered the super experts of other races, they would also avoid them. After all, this is just the starting zone. There's no need to fight with the enemy when they aren't confident. Everyone agreed with him. Continuing forward, it did not take long for the four of them to lose another 10 points each. It was then that the four of them finally saw the entrance to the leveling zone. It was roughly 1,000 zhang away from them. It was a white wall of light. It was not a teleportation array. As long as they passed through the white light screen wall, they would be able to reach the preparation area of the advancement area. In the preparation area, everyone would wait until everyone had left the starting area before they could set off to explore the advancement area. It didn't matter if they had entered the advancement area, died in the starting area, or directly exited the starting area. Only when the starting area was empty would the advancement area officially open. As Long Yu's group of four had arrived 14 days late, there was only half a month left until the deadline. The starting region would only last for a month at most. If they were unable to enter the advancement region within this period of time, they would have no choice but to withdraw. Because they had arrived a little late, Long Yu and the other three did not see too many people, nor did they see the experts of other tribes. They could be considered to be relatively lucky. There's a treasure chest in front. The four of them continued to move forward. When they saw a treasure chest, Red Oriole's heart stirred, and she prepared to open the purple crystal chest. After all, Red Oriole's points were the highest. It didn't matter if 10 points were deducted. She still had 51 points, unlike Moonsong, who only had 26 points. However, when the four of them approached the box, they discovered that there was actually a formation trap in the vicinity. It was condensed from space divine runes, and it was like a void domain that trapped them within. It's a trap. Let's go. Without any hesitation, Long Yu used the path of the Nine Nether towards the edge of the spatial array. A beam of pitch-black path of the Nine Nether divine runes shot out like a mad dragon and began to disintegrate the power of the spatial array. At the same time, experts from the machine race surrounded them from all sides. The machine race was one of the three strongest races in the Langi Galaxy. It was an existence that could be mentioned in the same breath as the six-winged race. This alien race's entire body was made up of metal and steel. Every individual had different abilities. Their physical strength was comparable to the Abyss race, but they could use the power of the divine script. They were much stronger than the Abyss race. At this moment, the spatial divine runic array enveloped Long Yu's group of four. The four of them were attacked from three directions by the machine race's experts. This purple crystal chest was actually a trap set by the machine race. However, Red Oriole didn't let go of this opportunity. She took the purple crystal chest and opened it. Quasi-divine source treasure. Without any hesitation, Red Oriole tossed the quasi-divine source item to Moonsong. After all, Moonsong had the least amount of defensive means, so she was most likely to encounter danger. Although she was fast and agile, most of the time, her opponent wouldn't give her the chance to escape. "I'll block them." Consort Yu snorted coldly. She turned around and condensed her divine demon sword chi into a thick defensive barrier. At the same time, the snow-white necklace around her fair neck once again released the snow-white glow of divine chi. Divine isolation. This level 11 awakening skill directly isolated the space in front of her from the space behind her. After the machine race's ferocious attacks broke through the divine demon sword chi barrier, they directly crashed into the isolated spatial crack. They couldn't attack Consort Yu at all. At this time, Long Yu continuously used the 9 Underworld's path. In a mere 3 breaths' time, he had destroyed a hole in the opponent's spatial formation. "Let's go." The 4 of them didn't hesitate. They immediately jumped forward and escaped from the machine race's trap. The machine race's opponents didn't expect Long Yu's group of 4 to be so powerful. They were able to destroy their spatial formation barrier in 3 breaths' time. All of them were slightly surprised, but they weren't angry. After all, they had only failed once. These 3 machine races experts, who were at the peak of the 7th-stage sovereign realm, had occupied this area and specifically attacked the foreign race's cultivators who wanted to advance to the advancement area. Naturally, their goal was to increase their points and allow them to advance further. It wasn't just this route. There were also other foreign races experts guarding the other routes that led to the advancement area. They were specifically here to kill the cultivators of other races and obtain points. Clearly, those who had the guts to set up an ambush on such a crucial route were all outstanding participants of the Eclipse Moon Ancient region. In a one-on-one battle, each of the 3 machine races experts had the strength to fight against Consort Yu, let alone when the 3 of them worked together. Chapter 1521. After passing through the traps set up by the 3 machines, the rest was a flat stretch of land. Moonsong led everyone in 9 Heaven's star flash. Every time she flashed, she would appear more than 300 meters away. After a few leaps, they were already close to the white light screen. "Come, let's go in." The 4 of them hit the white light screen one after another and disappeared from the starting area. Long Yu opened his eyes and found himself in a sealed room. Beside him were Consort Yu, Red Oriole, and Moonsong. They had just opened their eyes. "I've increased by 100 points. Long Yu said. He had just arrived at the preparation area, and his score had increased by 100 points. This meant that he had arrived at the advancement area. However, he was still in the preparation stage. He had to wait until there was no one in the 3 Starfield starting areas before the advancement area would officially open and the competition would begin. After increasing his score by 100 points, he wouldn't have to leave the advancement area so early. However, this place was much more dangerous than the starting area. Not only did it come from other alien races, but it also came from the existence of traps in the advancement area. There were many things that wouldn't appear in the starting area, but there were countless of them in the advancement area. Every time those traps appeared, there was a chance that cultivators would be killed. Let's get ready first. There's still at least half a month before the advancement area opens. After Consort Yu finished speaking, she went to the side alone to comprehend it. Long Yu nodded. He took out the grade, 1 Heaven Crystal grade creation item, and began to absorb it. Moonsong still had a grade, 1 Heaven Crystal grade creation item that she hadn't finished absorbing. Now, she continued to absorb it. If she could expand her small world, her world power would also be stronger. This meant that her overall combat strength would increase. Long Yu's goal was naturally to increase his martial Dao realm by 1 level during this period of time. Currently, he was at the 3rd stage Great Ruler realm. Once he finished absorbing this 1st grade Heaven Crystal grade creation item, he would at least step into the 4th stage Great Ruler realm. A grade, 1 Heaven Crystal grade creation item contained more than 25 times the creation power of a grade, 3 Heaven Crystal grade creation item. If Battlefield Army Merit points could be bought, it would be worth at least 125 million Battlefield Army Merit points. Moreover, this was only the value of the power of creation, not including the special power contained in it. This was just like how Long Yu's creation item contained fire elemental primordial energy. To cultivators who comprehended fire elemental divine glyphs, this item was worth at least 200 million. And this was something that could be found in any random purple crystal box in the eroding moon ancient domain. Moreover, this was one of the worst things that could be found in a purple crystal box. If it was a divine source item, even if it was broken, it would be worth at least 1 billion divine source stones. Of course, no matter what the purple crystal chest contained, these items were things that cultivators would never be able to see on a normal day. In the territories of the human race and the demon race, the items in the purple crystal boxes were extremely rare. Even for the Six-Wing clan, it was not easy to see these items. Once they appeared, it would definitely lead to a round of intense competition. It was precisely because of this that the eroding moon ancient domain was so attractive. Long Yu continued to absorb the power of creation from the item of creation, expanding the territory of his small world. When he first stepped into the ruler's secret realm, his small world was at the level of 10 billion miles. After that, the size of his small world would increase by 10 billion miles with every increase in realm. When he reached the ruler's secret realm, his small world would be 30 billion miles. Now, that Long Yu was a rank 3 ruler. The territory of his small world was 60 billion miles. Now that he was absorbing the power of creation, his small world was expanding to 70 billion miles. Long Yu recalled that the 9 underworlds was the small world that belonged to the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. The territory of that small world was more than 100 billion miles. According to Long Yu's knowledge before he was reincarnated into this world, this territory was roughly the size of a solar system. Now, Long Yu was still quite a distance away from the territory of 100 billion miles. The key was that the larger the territory of the small world, the more difficult it would be to expand the territory by 1 kilometer. Furthermore, it would require more power of creation to be consumed in order to expand the small world so much space out of thin air. From 60 billion miles to 70 billion miles, it required at least 100 million army merit points to expand the small world. If it wasn't for the fact that Long Yu happened to find a first-grade heaven crystal rank item of creation in the treasure chest, it would have been far too early for him to step into the rank 4 ruler's secret realm. If he didn't want to rely on the item of creation and instead cultivate it on his own, he would need at least 100 years to achieve this process. Of course, if he cultivated on his own, the comprehension of various powers during the process would be much greater than directly absorbing the power of creation. The foundation of his power would be more stable. To Long Yu, if he had enough talent, he didn't need to spend too much time stabilizing his cultivation. It would only take him about 1 or 2 months to familiarize himself with it. It had already been about 2 months since he stepped into the rank 3 ruler's secret realm. Absorbing the power of creation and stepping into the rank 4 ruler's secret realm wouldn't affect him much. As Long Yu continued to expand the territory of the small world, the recovery speed of the world's spirit energy in his small world became faster and faster. Long Yu thought about it and took some time to enter the small world to check. He found that there were indeed a few places in the small world that had quite serious spatial collapses. If he didn't repair them, the collapses would get bigger and bigger until the entire small world was swallowed up. This was the result of Long Yu activating the 8 extreme bloodline. Now, he could only use a portion of the power of creation to repair the collapsed space. Fortunately, there were no living beings in the collapsed space, so the loss wasn't too great. Otherwise, if the collapsed space was in the living area of the bone race or the new martial world, the situation would be very serious. Long Yu studied the location of the 8 extreme bloodline in his body and the location of the spatial collapse. He found that the two were still connected. He confirmed according to this relationship and knew that even if he fully activated the 8 extreme bloodline, the location of the spatial collapse wouldn't appear in the new martial world or the living area of the bone race. He was relieved. After confirming, Long Yu continued to leave the small world and continued to expand the territory of the small world. From expanding from 60 billion kilometers to 70 billion kilometers, Long Yu's world power had also improved a lot. Coupled with the breakthrough of the martial Dao realm, his basic power would increase by at least 3 times. If he could fight against ordinary 7th stage Great Dominator form races before, it would be even easier to deal with them after improving the martial Dao realm. Even if he encountered a peak 7th stage Great Dominator, he would be able to resist them to a certain extent. Of course, if he wanted to defeat a peak 7th stage Great Dominator alone, he still had to be a little bit weaker. Not to mention the top 10 geniuses of the Langustar field, such as the Golden Six Wings. Long Yu was definitely not a match for them. According to Long Yu's estimation, he needed to be at least a 5th stage Great Dominator to be able to resist the opponent's attack. If he were to encounter an expert of this level in the advancement area, Long Yu would have no choice but to flee. Given Long Yu's current abilities, if he wanted to flee, not many people would be able to stop him. About 7 days later, Long Yu finally finished absorbing the power of creation in the 1st grade Heaven Crystal Grade creation item. While stepping into the 4th stage Great Dominator realm, he also repaired the spatial collapse of the small world. This made Long Yu's strength skyrocket. He tried to spar with Consort Yu, and found that when he stacked Battle Heavenly Power to 100 levels, Consort Yu needed 70% of her strength to completely block the Battle Dragon Fist. In other words, if Long Yu were to stack the Berserk Heavenly Power to 200 layers and then use the Berserk Dragon Fist, then even Yu Fei would be injured. Of course, if you were to use the Berserk Dragon Fist at 200 layers, Long Yu's fleshly body would not be able to withstand it and would shatter into pieces. Although the Battle Berserker Heavenly Body had reached the transformation realm and once again increased the strength of Long Yu's physical body, using the Berserker Dragon Fist placed a much greater burden on his body than using the Berserker Fist cannon. Currently, Long Yu could only barely withstand the 170 levels of the Berserker Heavenly Power. If it was any higher, he might be the first to collapse. His fist would shatter before the enemy was even hit. 170 floors was his limit. Therefore, no matter what, his attacks couldn't break through Consort Yu's defense. As long as Consort Yu used all her strength to condense the Divine Demon Sword Chi barrier, she would be able to block any attack from Long Yu. When he thought of how the 3 machines broke through Consort Yu's Divine Demon Sword Chi barrier in one move when he broke through to the advancement area, Long Yu knew that there was still a huge gap between him and a peak elite. On the other hand, now that Moonsong had completely absorbed the 1st grade Heaven Crystal Grade creation item, the power of her small world had increased by quite a bit. She was only a short distance away from the 7th stage Dominator realm. If she had another 1st grade Heaven Crystal Grade creation item, Moonsong would be able to directly step into the 7th stage Dominator realm. However, she had just increased her cultivation level not too long ago. Even if she obtained a creation item now, she didn't dare to absorb it to directly increase her cultivation level. Otherwise, she wouldn't be familiar with her own strength. If she increased her cultivation level without a stable foundation, her basic strength would be limited. Under normal circumstances, the increase of one's cultivation level could increase one's basic strength by 3 times. However, if she increased it without a stable foundation, it was very likely that she would only increase it by 2 or even 3 times. This would be a huge loss, so there was no need to pursue such a rapid increase. This was also the reason why Long Yu had to stabilize his cultivation level every time he increased his cultivation level. If he increased it too quickly, the effects would be bad, and he would regret it for the rest of his life. After the advancement area, we'll have to split up. Be careful. If you can't do it, just choose to leave. Long Yu said to the 3 girls solemnly. Of course, he was mainly speaking to Red Oriole and Moonsong. Chapter 1522. Consort Yu's strength ranked in the top 50 among the over 9,000 cultivators participating in the eroding Moon Ancient region in the entire Langustar region. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't be able to do anything to her. However, things were different for Moonsong and Red Oriole. Although the 2 of them had damaged quasi-divine source artifacts, it would still be very difficult for them to withstand the attacks of powerhouses. For example, if they encountered the six-winged golden beings, their trip to the eroding moon ancient region would basically be over. No matter how Moon Song tried to escape, she wouldn't be able to escape from the other party's grasp. She had no other choice but to retreat. In fact, she might not even have the time to do so. There was a condition to retreat from the advancement zone of the eroding moon ancient region. That was, if there were no other foreign races within a radius of 300 meters, she could directly retreat. Otherwise, the eroding moon ancient region wouldn't allow cultivators to directly retreat. Therefore, even if she wanted to retreat, she would need to be extremely agile and have extremely strong foresight and perception. Fortunately, Moonsong's strength wasn't too bad. At her current transcendent realm, the starlight in the nine firmaments could completely break through the spatial barrier. Of course, this was when she was alone. She could use the starlight in the nine firmaments alone to pass through some spatial barriers, but she couldn't bring others with her. Otherwise, you wouldn't have needed to use the path of the nine netherworld to destroy the spatial formation barrier. She could have just teleported there. With such an ability, it wouldn't be particularly difficult for Moon Song to escape at a critical moment. However, she still had to be careful. If she wasn't careful, there might just be people waiting for her at the place where the starlight in the nine firmaments teleported to. That would be the end of her. As for Red Oriole, her deduction ability had become her greatest trump card in the advancement area. She had to spread out her power of deduction, covering at least a radius of 1,000 feet around herself, so that she could keep track of the movements of the other non-humankind beings in the surroundings. Otherwise, it was extremely likely that she would be killed by other powerful non-humankind beings. After all, in terms of absolute strength, Red Oriole's strength was basically at the bottom among all the foreign race powerhouses who could enter the advancement zone. In the advancement area, she could only rely on her deduction ability to search for opportunities to see if she could open a few treasure chests. It was basically impossible for her to enter the next area. As a matter of fact, out of the 30,000 foreign races that participated in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain, only 100 of them were able to advance to the next region. On one hand, there was the limit of points, and on the other hand, there was the limit of strength. The limit of strength was also the limit of points. Without strength, you wouldn't be able to kill the other races, and you wouldn't be able to get enough points to continue. Even if it was an extremely wretched existence with superb concealment methods, it would be very difficult for them to advance to the next area if they weren't strong enough. Among the 7 regions of the eroding moon ancient region, there were 3 starting regions, and the 4th region was the advancement region. In the 5th region, the cultivators could obtain extremely heaven-defying items. However, it was not so easy to enter the 5th region, let alone compete with other experts in the 5th region. On the other hand, Concubine Yu's request was to enter the 6th or 7th region to obtain the inheritance of a divine spirit expert. With her current strength, it was basically impossible for her to do so. It would already be very good if she could advance to the 5th region, but if she could obtain some good things in the advancement region, it wouldn't be impossible. Moreover, the key to obtaining these things depended on luck. No one knew what conditions were needed to obtain the legacy of a god. No one knew what was in the 6th region, either. Perhaps someone would be able to obtain it? Taking a step back, Consort Yu's main reason for coming to the eroding moon ancient region was to find an opportunity to break through. The legacy of a god was not that easy to covet, but there were many opportunities to break through to the demigod level. It was rumored that every time the eroding moon ancient region opened, there would be a group of talented existences who could comprehend the opportunity to break through and step into the demigod level. Among the 14 demigod experts of the human race and the demon race, one of them had broken through to the demigod level in the eroding moon ancient region. Moon Song and Red Oriole, on the other hand, wanted to carefully mingle around the promotion area. The matter of killing other races to increase their points was basically impossible for the 2 girls. After the 4 of them split up, it was basically impossible for them to kill other races. However, it wasn't impossible for them to continuously advance and open treasure chests to accumulate points. Consort Yu was here to find an opportunity to break through to the demigod level, while Long Yu wanted to enter the 5th region and plunder as many treasures as possible for his future cultivation. It was said that the 5th region of the eroding moon ancient region contained many treasures that were precious to the demigod level. Even if he obtained just one, it would definitely become Long Yu's trump card in the future. There were even martial arts techniques of the gods in the 5th region, which were things that could not be obtained in the outside world no matter what. Ordinary martial arts techniques of the gods were a level lower than the forbidden skills of the ancient gods, but they were slightly easier to cultivate. Long Yu had no idea where the Juyo Dragon Emperor's forbidden skills of the ancient gods came from, but there was no doubt that it was an extremely rare existence in the entire Langistar region. Even ordinary martial arts techniques of the gods could only be obtained in the 5th region of the eroding moon ancient region. Not to mention the forbidden skills of the ancient gods, which didn't even exist in the eroding moon ancient region. Of course, many people had heard of the forbidden skills of the ancient gods, but it was basically impossible to cultivate them on their own. Although Long Yu already had the cultivation method of the forbidden skills of the ancient gods, he was still looking forward to obtaining other martial arts techniques of the gods. After all, martial arts techniques of the gods were existences that surpassed unbounded level martial arts techniques. In fact, they were even stronger than unbounded level martial arts techniques. Although it was more difficult to cultivate than unbounded level martial arts techniques, it was only natural. If it wasn't difficult, how could it be so powerful? The 4 of them each had their own goals, but if Long Yu wanted to reach his goal and enter the 5th region, it wouldn't be easy. His overall combat strength wasn't particularly strong. At most, he was just a little stronger than Red Oriole and Moonsong. If he wanted to kill other outsiders and earn points, Long Yu would have to be extremely careful. Looks like I'll have to keep Incorporeal Incarnation active after I reach the advancement region. Otherwise, if I get ambushed by something like the Golden 6-Winged Being, I'll be dead. Long Yu thought to himself. Fortunately, he had fused the Shadow Essence into the innate mystique fruit of the Book of Shadows. Incorporeal Incarnation consumed very little energy, and he could continue to advance in this state. If he encountered a good opportunity, he could immediately reveal himself and reap the rewards. Of course, if he didn't kill everyone present, there was a high chance he would be killed. His appearance would give others a chance to perform divination, and when it came to divination power, Long Yu wasn't a match for the other 7th-stage sovereigns. Therefore, even if Long Yu possessed the ability to transform into nothingness, it would still be extremely difficult for him to continue forward. 14 days after the 4 of them arrived at the advancement region, they finally discovered that the white walls surrounding the sealed room were starting to weaken. At the same time, a teleportation formation gradually formed in the middle of the room. Looks like the advancement region is about to open. Everyone get ready. Remember to leave alive. Long Yu exchanged glances with the 3 girls and said with a grave expression, "MHM, don't worry. If you don't die, I won't." Red Oriole covered her mouth and giggled. This last, Long Yu smiled at her and began to pay attention to the formation of the teleportation formation. He directly turned incorporeal and headed to the place where the teleportation formation was forming. He was prepared to be teleported out. He wanted to go to the advancement region as soon as possible. If he was fast enough, he might be able to get 1 or 2 treasure chests first. As for Consort Yu and the other 2 women, they didn't dare to do the same. Even Consort Yu didn't dare to rush to the front of the group. Everyone knew that those at the front were the strongest geniuses from the 3 star fields. Every one of them was at least as strong as Consort Yu. If the 3 women rushed to the front, they would be courting death. Even Consort Yu didn't dare to be in the limelight. However, the golden and silver 6-winged beasts that Long Yu saw were very likely to rush to the front. After all, they were very strong. As long as they didn't get attacked by opponents of the same level, there wouldn't be any accidents. Soon, the teleportation formation was completely formed. Even though Long Yu had turned incorporeal, he couldn't escape the detection of the eroding Moon Ancient Region's teleportation formation. When the teleportation formation was completely formed, Long Yu was directly teleported out. In the next moment, a void appeared in front of Long Yu. In this void, he could see some starlight from afar. Some were purple, some were white, and some were black. Could these starlight be treasure chests? Long Yu's heart skipped a beat, and he frowned slightly. If the entire advancement region was a void like this, there would be too much freedom. It was very likely that some of the foreign tribes would gather together. If that was the case, the situation wouldn't be good for Long Yu. However, Long Yu soon realized that his worries were unnecessary. This was because the place he was teleported to was only a division of the advancement region. In such a division, there would at most be one cultivator from each race. In other words, there were a total of 200 divisions in the entire advancement region. It was enough to assign all the individuals of each race to different divisions. In that case, it would be impossible for them to unite. In this single division, there will at most be more than 200 foreign tribes from the 3 star fields. However, there are at least 200 treasure chests in this void. In his incorporeal state, Long Yu flew directly toward the nearest purple starlight. The purple starlight was the purple crystal chest. This was the purple crystal chest in the advancement region. It was very likely that there would be a complete divine source item or even other treasures of equivalent value. Chapter 1523. As Long Yu dashed towards the amethyst box, the starting point of the advancement area behind him also flashed with white lights. Warriors of other alien tribes were being teleported there. As Long Yu moved forward, he observed the white lights behind him. He discovered that there were a total of more than 40 white lights. In other words, there were more than 40 different outsiders that had arrived at the advancement area he was in. Just more than 40. Long Yu had some doubts in his heart. However, when he thought about it, he realized that it was normal. There were more than 40 outsiders in the same region. If there were a total of 200 regions, then there would be 8,000 outsiders in the advancement region. Including the Langya Star area, the 3 star areas had about 30,000 people in the eroding Moon Ancient domain. In other words, 1/4 to 1/3 of them had entered the advancement area. This ratio was about right. Without a doubt, Long Yu was running in the front. In this advancement area, the distance between each treasure box was much farther than in the starting point. It was even more than 1,000 miles. Moreover, if he wanted to rely on teleportation within 100 zhang, he wouldn't know how long it would take. It was better to fly towards the destination directly. In the process of Long Yu leaping, he had already counted the number of treasures in the entire void space. After all the treasure chests were shining like stars. There were 15 amethyst boxes, 30 white jade boxes, and 155 obsidian boxes. Altogether, there were exactly 200 of them. To open each treasure box, it would cost at least 10 points. The value of the treasures in the advancement area was different from the treasures in the starting point. Thus, in the advancement area, it would cost 10 points to open the obsidian box, 30 points to open the white jade box, and 50 points to open the amethyst box. Long Yu took the lead, dashing towards the amethyst box closest to him. At the same time, more than 10 alien tribes experts were also flying in that direction. This made Long Yu a little nervous. At this moment, he was in an intangible state, so the other alien tribes wouldn't know his existence. However, once he opened the amethyst box, he would be noticed and would be seen as a great enemy. After all, an existence that could avoid their senses was definitely a potential threat. Not to mention that he had opened an amethyst box directly. Long Yu's mind spun, and he thought it a pretty good idea. He continued to maintain his lead, and before the others arrived, he threw out a dark creature. Under Long Yu's control, the dark creature opened the amethyst box and fished out the contents. Long Yu kept that thing in his pocket dimension, and then urged the dark creature to self-destruct. Without a doubt, even though this dark creature was only a modified dark creature, it was still a 6th phase Great Dominator. If it directly self-destructed, Even if its power was limited by the eroding moon ancient region, it would still be enough to completely erase the aura of the item fished out from the purple crystal chest. After Long Yu succeeded, he ordered the dark creature to self-destruct while he maintained his incorporeal form and flew forward. Behind him were all-powerful foreign races with peak 7th phase Dominator realm cultivation. However, they couldn't do anything to Long Yu. In fact, they didn't even know which race had taken away the contents of the purple crystal chest. However, the dark creature Long Yu controlled had the appearance of a hexagonal ice crystal, which was the appearance of the ice god race. Clearly, some people guessed that the person who took away the contents of the purple crystal chest was definitely someone from the Langustar region. This kind of guess didn't allow them to guess who did all this. Long had already walked far away and was moving to the side. He did not continue to run at the front with all his might, because this kind of thing could only be done once. If he wanted to do it a second time, he would definitely fail because his opponent was prepared. At that time, he might even lose his life. One purple crystal chest is enough. Next, I'll find a chance to kill other alien races and get enough points to go to the 5th region of the eroding moon ancient region. Long Yu thought to himself. He knew very well that if he wanted to go to the 5th region of the eroding moon ancient region, he would need at least 200 or 300 points, even if he didn't loot the chest. Therefore, killing other alien races was a must. Fortunately, once he killed a foreign race in the advancement area, he would be able to obtain half of their points. This way, 200 or 300 points were relatively easy to gather. Of course, this was only for the stronger alien races. For Long Yu, he would have to kill at least 4 or 5 alien races in order to gather 200 or 300 points. Each alien race's strength wouldn't be weaker than Long Yu, so he could only rely on sneak attacks. Fortunately, the entire advancement area was divided into many different regions. The others couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the matters that happened far away. Therefore, Long Yu's next step was to look for those who were relatively remote and had relatively weaker strength. Soon, a 6th phase Dominator alien race was targeted by Long Yu. It was a foreign race that he had never seen before. It should have come from one of the other 2 star fields. However, since it was a 6th phase Dominator, Long Yu didn't have to worry about not being able to defeat it. He just had to sneak attack and kill it. The alien race was like a fish that was 50 or 60 meters long. Its streamlined body was rather low profile in the void. After all, it was hidden in the darkness, and it wasn't very strong, so it was easy to overlook it. Most importantly, it was taking a very secluded route. It was flying towards a white jade chest at the edge of the advancement area. Based on preliminary estimates, it would take another hour to get there. During this time, the 3 purple crystal chests near the center of the advancement area had already been snatched. This was where the competition was the most intense. As for the white jade chests at the edge, there weren't many people eyeing them. After all, there were only 40 or so alien races in the entire advancement area. Even if there were some alien races that didn't enter the advancement area immediately, there were at most 50 or so. Half of them thought that they were very strong, so they directly headed towards the center where there were the most treasure chests. Along the way, they killed and snatched treasures to maximize their profits. As Long Yu slowly flew towards the 50 or 60 meter long fish, he checked the item in the purple crystal chest he had just opened. This is when Long Yu saw it, his eyes narrowed. This thing just happened to be useful here. The purple crystal chests in the advancement area definitely didn't contain ordinary items. The item that Long Yu spent 50 points and a lot of effort to snatch was a pitch black fruit. This fruit contained extremely dense creation power. It also contained the power of a type of prophet rank shadow divine text. Long Yu could feel that the creation power in this fruit was at least 20 to 30 times that of a first-grade heavenly crystal grade creation item. It was equivalent to a supreme grade creation item. This was something that couldn't be obtained in the outside world no matter what. The territories of the human race and the demon race were considered rich in resources. However, treasures that contained so much creation power probably only appeared once in 100 years. How could Long Yu get it? Furthermore, as Long Yu observed the fruit, he received a piece of information. The power within the fruit could be immediately absorbed and comprehended. As long as one ate the pitch-black fruit, they would be able to use the creation power within it and instantly cultivate. Furthermore, they would be able to comprehend the power of the enlightenment grade Umbra Divine runes. This made Long Yu extremely shocked. Although he didn't know what kind of fruit it was, he still ate it immediately. The good stuff obtained in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain was naturally extraordinary. After Long Yu ate this fruit, the creation power in it surged into his body frantically. However, Long Yu didn't use this creation power to improve his martial arts realm. Instead, he used it to cultivate the secret martial arts technique of the Devil Dust Heart. Currently, the Devil Dust Heart was at the 6th level. If he wanted to upgrade it to the 9th level, he would need a huge amount of creation power. This was also the reason why Long Yu hadn't tried to upgrade the Devil Dust Heart. But now, it was a great opportunity for him. He would definitely use it to improve his strength if he could immediately absorb the creation power in the fruit. He had just made a breakthrough in his martial arts realm. It was impossible for him to improve again. Now, the only thing that could use so much creation power was the secret martial arts technique of the Devil Dust Heart. The difficulty of cultivating the Devil Dust Heart had always exceeded Long Yu's expectations. Although this fruit contained a huge amount of creation power, the speed at which it upgraded the Devil Dust Heart wasn't fast. The progress was improved bit by bit. After consuming about 1/7 of the creation power, it finally upgraded to the 7th level. Then, 2/7 of the creation power was consumed to reach the 8th level. Finally, 4/7 of the creation power was consumed, just enough to upgrade the Devil Dust Heart to the pinnacle, the 9th level. One had to know that the creation power contained in this fruit was 20 to 30 times that of a first-grade, heavenly crystal grade creation item. If he didn't consider the need to stabilize his realm, then after eating this fruit, it would be enough for the current Long Yu to directly upgrade to the 7th stage Great Ruler. He would even have more than half of the creation power left. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to cultivate the Devil Dust Heart, as expected of something from the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain. This way, I have a greater chance of killing the other alien races. Long Yu's eyes flickered. In addition to upgrading the Devil Dust Heart to the pinnacle, he also comprehended a prophet-level shadow attribute divine text from this pitch-black fruit. This shadow attribute divine text was called Dark Flow Divine Text. Although he had just obtained it, Long Yu had completely comprehended it. The degree of comprehension was as perfect as that of the Prophet Level 9 Nether Divine Text. However, as for what effect it had, Long Yu didn't know. He could use it to deal with that long fish alien later. After eating a fruit, Long Yu's strength had greatly improved. The main thing was that the Devil Dust Heart had reached the pinnacle, giving rise to an extremely heaven-defying secret martial arts technique. Chapter 1524. For the time being, Long Yu did not know the effects of the Dark Current Divine characters. However, he was still looking forward to the peak technique of the Devil Dust Heart. Just like the Balance Control and the Pure World Body, these two secret martial arts techniques have been upgraded to the peak of the 9th layer. They had given birth to a powerful technique. The Demon Dust Heart was naturally the same, but the difficulty of cultivating the Demon Dust Heart was much higher than those two secret martial arts techniques. This also led to the Devil Dust Heart actually giving birth to two special secret techniques when it reached the peak of the 9th level. The first technique was the Devil Dust Doppelganger. It was different from an ordinary doppelganger. Due to the powerful ability of the Devil Dust Heart, the doppelganger formed would have the same strength as the original body. In other words, if a Devil Dust Doppelganger was formed, Long Yu's battle strength would directly double. Moreover, the enemy would not be able to distinguish which was the doppelganger and which was the real body, because the two were basically exactly the same. Within the doppelganger's body, there was also a small Devil Dust Heart. This allowed the doppelganger to rapidly reconstruct its body after being injured. However, the speed of reconstruction was slower than Long Yu's real body. Only by relying on this point could the enemy distinguish between Long Yu's real body and doppelganger. And to form a devil dust heart doppelganger, the speed of reconstruction was as fast as Long Yu's body. In other words, according to the current devil dust heart martial arts technique Long Yu had reached the 9th level, he only needed 3 breaths to be able to form a devil dust doppelganger. Of course, if Long Yu's own body was completely destroyed, he only needed 3 breaths to completely reconstruct it. When the devil dust heart reached the peak of the 9th level, the second technique derived was the devil dust body possession. This was a standard defensive method. It could activate the power of the devil dust heart, covering the surface of one's fleshly body with a layer of devil dust power. As for what exactly this power was, Long Yu did not know. However, he knew that the power of the devil dust heart was extremely strong. I wonder, how is the defensive ability of the devil dust body possession? Long Yu thought in his heart. Even if he had high expectations for something that he had not tested, he could not rely too much on it. He had to have the time to test it out first. At this time, he was only a few hundred meters away from the 15-meter-long fish. The 15-meter-long fish leisurely moved forward, completely unaware that it was being watched. Then, it looked at the white jade box in front of it with a look of anticipation. After all, this was the white jade box in the advancement area, and it would be opened in half the journey. Most importantly, for the time being, there were no other strange races that wanted to fight with it for the white jade box. It could totally take it for itself. If he didn't go for more treasure chests in the center and walk to the more remote edges, the competition would indeed be much smaller. However, this also meant that if he was targeted, the possibility of escaping during the chaos would be extremely low. Long Yu had thought of this point, which was why he went to the remote side to kill those who looked weaker and had no competition. The 15-meter-long fish had the cultivation of a 6th phase dominator. It was not a race from the Langi galaxy, so Long Yu had no idea what abilities it had. However, Long Yu had the pure world body. To a large extent, he could avoid some strange methods. Adding on the fact that his physical body was not weak, Long Yu could deal with whatever methods the other party had. As Long Yu approached the other party, he gradually revealed himself from the state of nothingness. This made the 15-feet-long fish seem to have sensed something. Without a doubt, the person who dared to sneak up on it was definitely not a weakling. At the very least, this person had confidence in his own strength. This made the 15-feet-long fish seem to be a little flustered. However, it quickly sensed that the person who had come was a 4th phase dominator of a strange race. He was not from their galaxy, nor was he a member of any of the powerful races from the other 2 galaxies. This made the fish very happy. A 4th phase dominator actually dared to target it, although it was only a 6th phase dominator and not a 7th phase dominator. Even a 15-meter-long fish like a 6th phase dominator could easily defeat an ordinary 7th phase dominator. How could a 6th phase dominator who could reach the eroding moon ancient region's advancement region be a simple person? However, the 15-meter-long fish did not know that although Long Yu was only a 4th phase dominator, his methods far surpassed ordinary 7th phase dominators. Strike first, gain the upper hand. Everyone believed in this principle. The 15-meter-long fish sensed Long Yu's presence and immediately used its technique. It used the power of the water element. In an instant, pillars of water were condensed and shot towards Long Yu at an extremely fast speed. These water pillars could even pass through space. After all, water-type origin power was the foundation and source of spatial divine runes. Being able to pass through space was not a big deal. When the water pillars attacked, Long Yu did not have time to react. The opponent's attack speed was just too fast. However, when the water pillars landed on Long Yu's body, they did not land on his devil dust heart. Although the majority of his body was blasted to smithereens, Long Yu completely recovered in 2 breaths of time. Of course, while Long Yu was reconstructing his body, the 15-meter-long fish was not idle. Water-type origin power continuously condensed and appeared around Long Yu. There was a total of 7 whirlpools. Each whirlpool was very similar to the void burial flow that the Nether Void Dragon Blade used. Their power was also comparable to the void burial flow. If Long Yu was caught in one of them, he would definitely die. Fortunately, the opponent's 7 whirlpools were the same as the void burial flow. They needed time to condense and prepare. This gave Long Yu a certain amount of time to prepare. He first reconstructed his body, then quickly condensed the Revelation level 9 Nether Divine runes. At the same time, he began to condense the Devil Dust clone. With the appearance of the Devil Dust clone, Long Yu's 9 Nether Divine runes had already finished condensing. Several 9 Nether paths shot out and shot at 2 of the whirlpools. Then, the spatial disintegration power of the innate magic power directly disintegrated the water-type origin power whirlpools. Next, Long Yu and the Devil Dust clone moved together. The 9 Nether paths directly shot out and disintegrated the remaining 4 water-type origin power whirlpools. There was only 1 water-type origin power whirlpool left, but it was too late. It directly exploded between Long Yu and the Devil Dust clone. The terrifying power instantly engulfed Long Yu and the Devil Dust clone. However, it was unable to cause any destructive damage to the two. On Long Yu's body, he directly used the Devil Dust possession. A layer of pitch-black dust-like substance directly covered Long Yu's entire body, turning him into a black man. However, the defensive ability of this method was indeed very strong. The opponent's move, which was similar to the void burial flow, exploded right next to him. The terrifying power even caused the surrounding space to distort. However, Long Yu and the Devil Dust clone were both possessed by the Devil Dust, so they did not suffer any damage. The defensive ability of the Devil Dust possession was clearly very strong, especially for Long Yu. The current Long Yu had relatively few defensive methods. After the Devil Dust possession, he could be said to be proficient in all aspects. He did not have any obvious weaknesses. In the past, he could only use the Wild Battle Celestial Barrier to defend himself. However, to be honest, the Wild Battle Celestial Barrier was only a derivative of a body-tempering martial technique. Its defensive ability was not particularly strong. Compared to the Devil Dust possession, the defensive ability of the Wild Battle Celestial Barrier was not even half of the Devil Dust possessions, even after stacking 100 layers of the Wild Battle Celestial Barrier. Therefore, when Long Yu directly used the Devil Dust possession, its defensive ability was comparable to the Wild Battle Celestial Barrier after stacking 200 layers of the Wild Battle Celestial Barrier. When the 15-meter-long fish saw that Long Yu had not been injured by its void burial flow technique, it was a little surprised. However, at this time, it did not have the time to be surprised. This was because it was Long Yu's turn to attack. Long Yu and his Devil Dust clone activated the 9 Nether Divine characters in their bodies at almost the same time. Long Yu's main body activated the 9 Nether Sphere and condensed it, restricting the 15-meter-long fish's movements by about 30%. Immediately after, the Devil Dust clone activated the Boundless Grasp, instantly sealing the power in the opponent's body and pulling it in his direction. The 50-meter-long fish was almost unable to use any of its strength. However, in the next moment, the 50-meter-long fish's body flickered with a pale blue light, and a pale blue crystal-like object appeared. As soon as the crystal-like object appeared, a burst of pale blue divine characters erupted. It was a prophet-level spatial divine character, derived from the water primordial power. The burst of pale blue divine characters did not erupt from the 50-meter-long fish, but from the pale blue crystal-like object. Therefore, even the sealing power of the Boundless Grasp could not restrict it. However, the 9 Nether Sphere still managed to slow down the eruption of the object's power by 30%. This pale blue crystal-like object was obviously the 50-meter-long fish's battle weapon, and it was a top-grade, unbounded battle weapon, on the same level as the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower. The burst of the pale blue divine characters directly severed the connection between Long Yu and the 50-meter-long fish, causing the boundless grasp to immediately lose its effect. He could not even use the third section of the boundless grasp. However, in the next moment, Long Yu continued to activate the 9 Nether Divine characters. The 9 Nether Path was once again used, and its ability to disintegrate the spatial divine characters showed its effectiveness. It directly disintegrated the pale blue light, and all of this took only 2 breaths of time. The boundless grasp continued to be used, and the dark current divine characters that Long Yu had just comprehended from the mystical fruit were also activated. In the next moment, the dark current divine characters directly erupted from the 50-meter long fish's defenseless body. In that instant, countless pitch-black stripes appeared on the 50-meter long fish's originally pale blue body. They constantly circled the surface of its body, and the dark current divine characters directly exploded in the fish's body through the third section of the boundless grasp. Chapter 1525. Long Yu didn't know if the dark current divine text had any special effects before. It was reasonable to say that this kind of divine text was derived from the metal element's primordial power. It was on the same level as the 9 underworld divine text and the forest devil divine text. It was very likely that it would have some special effects, such as the destructive power of the forest devil divine text towards the soul. Now that Long Yu had used the dark current divine text with the boundless grasp, he immediately felt the energy within the opponent's body begin to leak out. The dark current divine text can cause the opponent's energy to continuously leak out. Long Yu's heart shook. He was rather satisfied with the effect. Satisfied? Of course, he had to be satisfied. After all, this divine rune was only a side effect of the mysterious fruit. To be able to completely comprehend such a revelation-grade divine rune, Long Yu had undoubtedly picked up a great bargain. As Long Yu's dark current divine text blasted into the opponent's body, the boundless grasp's effect exploded. The opponent's core energy began to leak out. At the same time, Long Yu used the dark current divine text again. This time, it was the forest devil divine text. The opponent realized that the situation was bad and wanted to escape, but it was pulled back by the boundless grasp. Then, the forest devil divine text completely exploded out from the opponent's body. 4 symbols death prison. Countless lines of death surged out. Moreover, they were used by Long Yu and the devil dust clone together. Previously, the boundless grasp had also been used by Long Yu and the devil dust clone together. They didn't give the opponent any chance. Under Long Yu's double attack, the 15-meter long fish was completely unable to resist. Now, both its soul and mind were suffering extremely heavy blows. Forest devil divine text and 4 symbols death prison were more than enough to deal with a 7th phase ruler, let alone a 15-meter long fish that was a 6th phase ruler. At this time, as Long Yu watched the 15-meter long fish's soul and mind being continuously destroyed, his heart shook. He noticed his devil dust clone and thought to himself that it was rather difficult to condense in battle. After all, it needed 2 or 3 breaths of time to condense. But couldn't he condense some devil dust clones in advance and place them in the pocket dimension, and then directly activate them in battle? Long Yu sensed that if he wanted to maintain such a demon dust clone, he would need to consume a lot of energy. If he condensed 2 demon dust clones, then he would basically use up all the energy in his body every hour. This level of consumption caused him to give up on the idea of condensing a demon dust clone. After all, he would have to stay in the advancement region of the eroding moon ancient region for at least 10 days. If he were to maintain the demon dust clone for such a long time, Long Yu wouldn't be able to take it. Therefore, he shook his head and checked the score he had just obtained. In the advancement region, killing a foreign race member would give him half of their points. The 15-meter long fish in front of him had clearly just entered the advancement region and hadn't even opened the boxes yet. This meant that it had at least 100 points. Long Yu glanced at it. After killing the 15-meter long fish, he had gained 62 points, bringing his total to 146 points. This was a lot. Long Yu was very satisfied and turned around to fly forward. At this moment, because Long Yu was flying in the direction of the 15-meter-long fish and fighting for some time, the majority of the foreign races had already retreated far away. The 3 closest purple crystal boxes had already been opened. At the same time, in the advancement region, 2 people had chosen to retreat after being injured. 3 people had already died in the chaotic battle. Of course, those who had died were all foreign races. Using the word human to describe them wasn't too appropriate. However, this casualty rate also caused Long Yu to be somewhat apprehensive. One had to know that those who were able to compete in the advancement region were the elites of their race. Now that they had died here, it was clear that the competition in the eroding moon ancient region was too fierce. In the advancement region, Long Yu didn't see any familiar opponents. There were only a few familiar races. For example, there was an Ice God race's peak 7-stage Sovereign Expert and a Machine race's peak 7-stage Sovereign Expert. Basically, those who could come here and compete for the purple crystal chest in the center were all peak 7-stage sovereigns. As Long Yu chased after the group of people, the distance between the 2 sides decreased. Just now, Long Yu had killed a 15-meter-long fish at the edge. He definitely had a lot of points. This caused many people to want to chase after Long Yu when they saw Long Yu. Of course, these foreign races wouldn't retreat to deal with Long Yu. If they did, they would have to waste even more points. In any case, their advance speed wasn't that fast. As long as they waited for Long Yu to catch up, they would naturally be able to make their move. As for who would be the one to kill Long Yu and obtain the final blow, obtaining half of his points, that would depend on luck and methods. Long Yu naturally knew what those foreign races were thinking. Some of the strongest foreign races, such as the Machine race, were already far ahead of them. The Machine race was the strongest. Moreover, it had just killed 2 foreign races in the chaotic battle. Its points were definitely over 200. With these points, it would be able to continue advancing until it reached the entrance of the 5th region. However, it definitely wouldn't give up on the purple crystal boxes along the way so easily. Right now, it would go up and snatch the boxes first. When the other foreign races caught up, it would have a greater advantage. It would be more efficient in killing these foreign races and obtaining points. This was what the Machine race was thinking. However, the other foreign races obviously weren't that stupid. There were already 3 different foreign races that seemed to have reached an agreement. They moved together towards the Machine race. Obviously, they wanted to kill the Machine race together. Although the alliance between the 3 foreign races would definitely cease to exist after killing the Machine race. With the 3 of them working together, the Machine race wouldn't be able to dominate the advanced region so easily. Long Yu estimated that the strength of the Machine race wasn't much different from Consort Yu's. In fact, it might even be slightly stronger than Consort Yu. In this region, there weren't any other stronger foreign races. That black foreign race, Long Yu noticed a clump of black mist in the middle of the battlefield. That clump of black mist was a member of an alien race. This alien race wasn't from the Langya galaxy and didn't have a physical body. It was said that it was one of the strongest races in the heavenly Dipper starfield. For the time being, this black fog didn't show any strength. It followed the majority of the foreign races and hid at the edge of the field. It didn't make the first move. Most likely, it was trying to figure out the strength of the other foreign races in the surroundings. It would only make its move after figuring it out. Based on Long Yu's intuition, the strength of this black fog foreign race was above that of the Machine race. If they were to fight, the black fog foreign race had a high chance of winning. Most importantly, Long Yu definitely wouldn't dare to provoke the black fog foreign race. Long Yu wasn't even able to defeat Concubine Yu, who he was extremely familiar with, let alone someone he wasn't familiar with who was as powerful as Concubine Yu. Although Long Yu knew that his strength was very strong, but it also depended on the situation. In the advancement area of the eroding moon ancient region, his strength could only be said to be below average. Even if he had just upgraded the Devil Dust Heart to the peak of the 9th layer, it was still the same. His martial arts realm was too low, and his basic strength was too weak. It was already very good to be able to reach the advanced region. This had already brought him great benefits. To be honest, even if Long Yu chose to give up and leave the eroding Moon Ancient region, he definitely wouldn't suffer a loss. However, with Long Yu's character, he definitely wouldn't give up unless it was absolutely necessary. Anyway, he had the ability to turn into nothingness, and he could rely on the Void Spirit Dragon Blade to teleport away. Even if he was controlled, little Sue could fly him away, so he could choose to retreat instantly. In this way, the probability of Long Yu being killed was extremely small. Unless he was killed by the other foreign races in one move, he would have the chance to retreat immediately. Long Yu moved forward while carefully observing the remaining foreign races. There was one from the Ice God clan, one from the Baron God clan, one from the Earth God clan, one from the Abyss clan, one from the Machine clan, and 5 other alien races. They were all from Lang Yu star area, and the others were from the other 2 star areas. Because of this, Long Yu's understanding of the foreign race's fighting style was limited. He could only watch from afar. Long Yu was very despicable. He followed the other party from afar, keeping a distance of around 500 zhong. The other party couldn't retreat to attack him, so he was in a state of absolute safety. Although he couldn't get the boxes, Long Yu didn't want them. In these amethyst boxes, even if there was another one of those special fruits, Long Yu would not be able to improve too much. Long Yu's combat strength had basically reached the limit of a 4th stage sovereign. Even if he obtained any treasures, his strength wouldn't improve much. He still wouldn't be able to deal with peak 7th stage sovereign existences. This calmed him down. If he could pick up scraps, then he would. If he couldn't, then he would advance steadily. After killing that 15 zhong long fish, his points would be enough for him to advance for a long time. There would definitely be many injured or dying foreign races in front of him. However, as Long Yu was thinking about that, an alien with the appearance of a great sword suddenly stopped in front of him. From the looks of it, it seemed as though it was waiting for Long Yu to catch up to it before attacking Long Yu. Sword race. Long Yu's heart trembled. He was a little surprised. The sword race looked like a large sword. The body of the sword was engraved with all kinds of strange patterns. It could release different kinds of power. Moreover, the strength of its body wasn't weak. Even if it cultivated some close combat martial skills, it was still an extremely tyrannical existence. The peak 7th stage sovereign sword race in front of him stopped and prepared to attack Long Yu. It was obvious that it was unhappy with Long Yu following it for a long time. It wanted to kill him and steal some points. However, Long Yu noticed that this sword race was injured in the chaotic battle just now. Chapter 1526. Originally, the sword race was one of the 3 strongest races in the Lang Yu star zone. The Six-Winged clan, the Mechanical clan, and the Sword Ancestor were definitely considered as one of the 3 strongest clans in the Lang Yu star area. There was no other reason than the fact that these 3 clans occupied the most fertile areas and produced the most cultivation resources. Because of this, the number of demigod experts in their race far exceeded the other races. The human race and the demon race only had 7 demigod experts each. As for the sword race, the Six-Winged race, and the machinery race, they each had nearly 100 demigod experts. Among them, there were many existences at the peak of the demigod realm. A long time ago, even though the Geo Dragon Emperor dared to cause trouble in the Outer God race and steal their holy items, it was because there were no super experts at the peak of the demigod realm in the Outer God race. In other words, if the Geo Dragon Emperor wanted to cause trouble in the sword race, the Six-Winged race, and the machinery race, it would not be that easy. Perhaps it was because this sword race being was injured, it didn't continue to fight with the other outsiders. Instead, it chose to rest for a moment and wait for Long Yu. If the sword race was able to kill Long Yu, who was a 4th stage sovereign realm outsider, then the sword race would be able to obtain a lot of points. Although the sword race was participating in the battle, it was very clear that Long Yu had killed a 15 zhong long foreign race. He must have a lot of points, at least around 200 points. However, it did not know that Long Yu only had 146 points. 50 points were used to open the first purple crystal box. In the arena, No one knew that the first amethyst chest was opened by Long Yu. They couldn't even guess it. Even if they were told that Long Yu had opened the first amethyst chest, many people wouldn't believe it. It should be known that Long Yu only had the cultivation of a fourth phase Great Sovereign. How could he open the purple crystal box in front of so many people? Moreover, how could he hide from the other foreign races? After this sword race was injured, he could only use half of his strength at most. Long Yu's eyes began to flash with the light of calculation. If Consort Yu was half as strong as she was, he might have been able to deal with her. After all, he had a high-grade, unbounded technique, the Battle Frenzy Heavenly Body. If he could push Battle Frenzy Heavenly Power to its limits, dealing with an injured sword folk wouldn't be a problem at all. However, the crux of the matter was that this sword race being was in the process of recuperating at all times. If he waited any longer, the strength of the sword race would continue to rise. If he recovered to his peak state, Long Yu would not be a match for him no matter what. This made Long Yu very conflicted. If he wanted to superimpose Berserk Heavenly Power, he would definitely need a certain amount of time. However, his opponent also needed time to heal. Both sides needed time, and if the battle dragged on for too long, Long Yu would definitely not be his opponent. Long Yu chose to move to the side, but the sword race followed suit. From the looks of it, it had its eyes on Long Yu, not letting Long Yu pass. It wanted to kill Long Yu to obtain the points he had. Then let's fight. Long Yu's heart went cold. Did this sword race really think they had him for sure? When Long Yu had tried to take a detour, he had already begun to condense devil dust doppelgangers in his miniature world. Every 2 breaths of time, he could condense one. As he continued to advance, and when he was within 1,000 feet of the sword race, there were already 6 devil dust doppelgangers in his miniature world. To support 6 devil dust clones in battle at the same time, Long Yu needed a lot of energy. However, he had no other choice. He needed to form enough devil dust clones to quickly superimpose Berserk Heavenly Power. At the same time, he would be able to temporarily pose a threat to his opponent, so that it would have less time to heal itself. That way, Long Yu would be able to shorten the time it took for him to superimpose Berserk Heavenly Power, and, at the same time, increase the time it took for his opponent to recover. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The only thing he needed to pay attention to was that Long Yu had to finish this battle as soon as possible. Otherwise, before the sword race could deal with Long Yu's energy would be completely depleted. Although the strength of the Devil Dust clones was comparable to Long Yu, they consumed too much energy. This forced Long Yu to finish this battle as soon as possible, especially now that he had condensed 6 Devil Dust clones. He didn't dare to waste even the slightest bit of time. In fact, every time an incense stick's worth of time passed, Long Yu would need to take a pill to recover his strength. Fortunately, Long Yu could let these Devil Dust clones take the initiative to take a pill to recover the strength of the Devil Dust clones and relieve the pressure on Long Yu. Otherwise, Long Yu's ability to continue fighting in this state would be extremely weak. As Long Yu came within 100 feet of the sword race did not hesitate and directly attacked Long Yu. After all, once he was within 100 feet of Long Yu, the sword race could directly teleport to his side. Moreover, if he turned around 100 feet or so, he wouldn't lose too many points. If he was too far away, he wouldn't be able to turn around, but if he was too close, he wouldn't lose too many points. After the sword race did not have to worry about this, he directly attacked Long Yu. Spatial vortexes appeared all around Long Yu. 18 of them appeared at the same time. From each spatial vortex, a clone of the sword race appeared. These sword race clones directly attacked Long Yu. Boundless sword chi blasted out, even sealing the surrounding space. Path of the 9 Underworld. Long Yu released the 6 Devil Dust clones and directly combined their strength to use the Path of the 9 Underworld. The speed at which the surrounding space was disintegrated increased by 7 times. In an instant, Long Yu broke through the spatial seal formed by the spatial vortexes and directly teleported to the front. Mad God's Descent. Long Yu and the 6 Devil Dust clones directly used the Mad God's Descent technique, instantly superimposing 70 levels of fighting heaven power. This made Long Yu's heart jump with joy. They were actually this fast? This was the first time he had stacked the Berserker heavenly power so quickly. In the past, he had to rely on the Berserker Fist Cannon to unleash it one punch at a time. But now, when the Demon Dust clones simultaneously used Berserker God Descends, it was actually able to stack the Berserker heavenly power. This made Long Yu very excited. If that was the case, then, when he condensed 10 Devil Dust clones, he would instantly have over 100 levels of fighting heaven power. Moreover, as time passed, the Mad God's Descent would provide Long Yu with more and more fighting heaven power. After about the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the Mad God's Descent would superimpose fighting heaven power would reach 15 levels, adding up to a total of 105 levels. However, of course, Long Yu would not just wait for the Mad God's Descent to superimpose fighting heaven power. This was because the strength of the sword race was extremely tyrannical. If he did not quickly get rid of it, the one who would die would be Long Yu himself. Primordial Shadow, Fighting Fist Cannon. Long Yu and the 6 Devil Dust doppelgangers simultaneously unleashed Primordial Shadow, and then continuously blasted out Berserker Fist Cannons towards the spatial vortexes created by the sword race. Every time the Berserker Fist Cannon blasted out, a primordial shadow would be sucked into the spatial vortex. It could be said to be courting death. However, this way, Long Yu's Berserker Fist Cannon was able to stack up rapidly. Almost in the instant that Long Yu broke the spatial seal, countless primordial shadow were thrown into the spatial vortexes and were crushed. However, Long Yu's fighting heaven power had instantly superimposed to 120 levels. There was no need to wait for the time it takes for the Mad God's Descent to increase its effect. Long Yu could directly superimpose fighting heaven power to the maximum. Seeing that Long Yu was actually controlling the primordial shadow to be sucked into the spatial vortexes, this kind of suicidal behavior was clearly out of the sword race's expectations. However, it also felt that the Mad God's Descent was continuously condensing on Long Yu's body. The Mad God's aura superimposed, causing Long Yu's entire body to become extremely oppressive. Moreover, Long Yu now had 6 Devil Dust clones with him. Right now, each Devil Dust clone's aura was exactly the same as Long Yu's. They looked like 7 human clones, without the slightest difference between them. In the next moment, countless sword lights erupted from the void around Long Yu. Among these sword lights, some carried the power of Ice Divine Text. Some carried the power of Fire Divine Text. Unexpectedly, these sword lights had 4 or 5 attributes at the same time, and all of them were divine text of the Enlightenment grade. This shocked Long Yu. As expected of an expert from the sword race, one of the 3 major races of the Langistar field, this genius had actually comprehended so many divine texts of the Enlightenment grade. Moreover, he had completely comprehended each and every one of them. Countless sword lights completely covered the space within 100 jong. Even if Long Yu wanted to teleport away, he wouldn't be able to avoid these sword lights. This was because the furthest he could teleport in the eroding moon ancient region was 100 jong, and the sword race just happened to cover the space within 100 jong with sword lights. It was obvious that it wanted Long Yu to have nowhere to escape. Devil Dust Possession, Battle Mad, Celestial Barrier. Long Yu consecutively used 2 defensive skills. Right now, there was no other way. Facing the sky, full of sword lights, he could only defend. Fortunately, the opponent was injured, so the attack wasn't very strong. Just relying on Devil Dust Possession and Battle Mad, Celestial Barrier wasn't enough to block the sword lights. However, Long Yu still had the strongest and most heaven-defying method, and that was Domain Assimilation. Before, Long Yu had already tried it with Consort Yu and the others. The effect of Domain Assimilation could be stacked. Now, Long Yu and the 6 Devil Dust doppelgangers gathered together and used Domain Assimilation together. The stacking effect of 7 layers of domain assimilation weakened the power of the endless sword lights within 100 zhong by 95% with every breath. Next, the power of the sword beams that fell on Long Yu and the devil dust doppelgangers' bodies was not even worth mentioning, let alone the fact that they could not break through Long Yu's devil dust doppelganger. Even fighting Mad Warrior's celestial barrier took quite a bit of time to break through. Not to mention that Long Yu had cultivated the devil dust heart to the peak of the 9th layer. Even if his body suffered a destructive blow, he could rebuild it in 2 breaths. It wouldn't be that easy for the opponent to kill Long Yu. 9 Underworld's Sphere. Long Yu immediately unleashed his 9 Underworld Sphere. The sphere, which was condensed from destruction grade 9 Underworld runes, continuously flashed with a pitch-black light. Then, countless pitch-black 9 Underworld lines began to restrict the power of the surrounding enemies. Long Yu's counterattack had begun. Chapter 1527. As soon as the 9 Underworld Sphere was unleashed, countless pitch-black lines instantly covered the surroundings. Everything that the Sword Race Clansman's power was bound by these pitch-black lines and restricted. The Sword Race Clansman's physical body immediately emitted a fiery radiance, and the power of a type of divine-grade fire divine text suddenly erupted. It actually cleared away all the pitch-black lines around it, and immediately after, it swept towards Long Yu. Like a meteor, the Sword Race Clansman's entire body was covered in flames. It charged through the void and instantly arrived in front of Long Yu. However, it was a pity that the Sword Race Clansman didn't know which was the real Long Yu. Its first guess was clearly wrong. It charged towards one of the Devil Dust Clansmen, and the tyrannical impact of the meteor directly shattered the Devil Dust Clansman. Long Yu didn't care too much. In fact, he wouldn't be too concerned even if his own body was shattered. After all, the Devil Dust Heart had already been cultivated to the peak of the 9th level. The destroyed Devil Dust Doppelganger was currently bathed in a sea of flames, leaving behind only a Devil Dust Heart that was still beating. This Devil Dust Heart was only a replica. It was naturally not as tyrannical as Long Yu's original body. However, this sea of flames alone wasn't enough to destroy the Devil Dust Heart. This caused the Sword Race Clansman's heart to tremble. He clearly saw that the pitch-black heart wasn't ordinary. He knew that if he didn't destroy the heart, Long Yu would continue to reconstruct his physical body, and he wouldn't be able to kill Long Yu completely. This was undoubtedly an extremely disgusting method. Moreover, Long Yu had condensed 6 Devil Dust Clansmen, which made it even more helpless. Even a peak 7th stage Sovereign Realm expert from the Sword Race felt that it was extremely difficult to completely destroy Long Yu. However, no matter how difficult it was, it had no choice but to destroy the Devil Dust Heart. The Sword Race Clansman's streamlined body was like a long sword, and countless strands of sword chi were condensed and erupted. These strands of sword chi also contained the power of various divine characters, and their attacks were clearly slightly stronger when combined. For example, Ice attribute divine characters and Fire attribute divine characters. When these two types were used together, they would generally be able to amplify each other's power. As the sword chi swept past, the Demon Dust Clone's Demon Dust Heart met with misfortune. Finally, various cracks appeared on it before it was torn apart. It exploded into a ball of pitch-black 9 Nether Divine text power before dissipating. Long Yu's eyelids twitched as he watched from the side. He did not know how strong the defensive capabilities of the Demon Dust Heart within his body were. However, without a doubt, it should not be able to defend against the continuous attacks of the Sword Race. With only the Demon Dust Heart left, Long Yu would not be able to use his incorporeal body technique. He would not even be able to use his innate abilities. By that time, it would be too late. That bastard was able to destroy my physical body with a single move. The destructive power of that meteor form is too great. If it's used on my physical body, I'll have to dodge it. Long Yu thought. However, it was obvious that the Sword Race would not use the same technique more than twice. After all, the second time he used it, the opponent will be somewhat on guard. After destroying one of the demon dust doppelgangers, the sword race cultivator set his sights on the other demon dust doppelganger. Unfortunately, it was still only a doppelganger. Moreover, at this time, a mass of netherworld divine runes condensed in the nearby void, and in 3 breaths of time, another demon dust doppelganger was condensed. Long Yu maintained 6 demon dust clones on the battlefield. Then, these demon dust clones directly summoned primordial shadows. More than 60 primordial shadows of Long Yu charged towards the sword race, and directly used the Berserk Dragon Fist. At this time, Long Yu's Berserk Heavenly Power had been stacked to 160 levels. As for the primordial shadows, they did not need the sword race to deal with them. When they used the Berserk Dragon Fist, they were already unable to hold on any longer. Their bodies were crushed by the tyrannical Berserk Divine Text. Only over 60 rays of light from the Berserk Dragon Fist remained on the battlefield, and they rumbled towards the sword race. The sword race's entire body was covered in a storm of blades, and it swept towards one of the demon dust clones. At the same time, the 60 rays of light arrived in the blink of an eye and landed on the sword race. However, countless rays of light coiled around the rays of light, and they were actually completely crushed by the storm of blades. The sword race was not harmed at all. Boundless Grasp. When Long Yu saw this, he didn't stop at all. He and his 6 demon dust clones simultaneously used the Boundless Grasp. One of the demon dust clones used the Revelation Grade 9 Nether Divine Text. 3 of them used the Dark Demon Text, and 2 of them and Long Yu's main body used the Dark Flow Divine Text. The power of the 3 divine characters was unleashed, and the Boundless Grasp exploded within the other party's body, sealing the other party's power for a time. If there was only one Long Yu dealing with his sword race being, a single limitless grip would not be enough to seal the power within the sword race being's body. But now, it was equivalent to 7 Long Yu dealing with his sword race being at the same time. Even though there was a huge difference in the basic strength between Long Yu and the sword race, when the power of the Boundless Grasp erupted at the same time, the sword race would not be able to use any strength for nearly 2 breaths of time. Moreover, the special effects of the Dark Demon Text and the Dark Flow Divine Text erupted in the next moment. The sword race's spirit and soul were directly injured. Although the injury wasn't serious, it was still an injury. Moreover, the strength within his body began to leak out under the eruption of the Dark Flow Divine Text, and the speed at which it was losing was extremely fast. Countless rays of sword chi circulated around the sword race's body. Immediately after, a crystal-like object appeared near the sword race. The countless rays of sword chi condensed on the crystal-like object, and in the next moment, the negative effects within the sword race's body were completely eliminated. This is a divine grade absolute beginning. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. He could see that the divine grade absolute beginning contained pure water-type absolute beginning power. Even with 7 of him joining forces, they were still unable to deal with this sword race being. This caused Long Yu to have a deep understanding of the strength of this sword race being. However, this sword race being was clearly not the strongest. Amongst the experts of the eroding Moon Ancient region, it could only be ranked within the top 300. Even so, the sword race's various methods and abilities were enough to completely suppress Long Yu. If Long Yu didn't use some of his trump cards, he definitely wouldn't be a match for this fellow. This sword race, how many points does it have? Long Yu thought to himself. Since he was determined to kill this sword race, he could only use less than 60% of his strength before the sword race fully recovered. If he didn't kill it now, there wouldn't be another chance in the future. The sword race had many tricks up their sleeves. However, they had suffered injuries from other foreign races, and they wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time. Long Yu didn't feel that there was anything wrong with taking advantage of their weakness. In any case, in the Eclipse Moon Ancient region, all foreign races weren't on their side. In this advanced region, there were no other humans or monsters. This meant that all the other foreign races were his opponents. If there was a chance, Long Yu really wanted to kill them all. Unfortunately, he didn't have the strength to do so. The foreign races in this region were considered relatively weak. The machine race's strength was equivalent to consort Yu's, which was enough to dominate this region. It would require 3 foreign races to work together to restrain it. One had to know that in this region, it was difficult for foreign races to communicate with each other. Wanting different foreign races to work together was definitely not easy. Of course, Long Yu could rely on the Void Spirit Dragon Blade to communicate with these foreign races. However, with Long Yu's martial arts realm, these foreign races wouldn't be willing to communicate with him. They looked down on him. Absolute Space Field. At this moment, Long Yu activated his Absolute Space Domain to restrict the movements of that sword race being. Dragon Berserker Fist. This time, it was Long Yu's main body and the 5 Devil Dust clones who used the Dragon Berserker Fist. Instantly, the physical bodies of Long Yu and the 5 Devil Dust clones cracked inch by inch. Obviously, they couldn't withstand the power of the Dragon Berserker Fist. At this time, the sword race was dealing with one of Long Yu's Devil Dust clones. He was almost about to destroy the Devil Dust heart of the Devil Dust clone. At this time, 6 fist lights came from all directions. Instinctively, the being of the sword race activated his defensive skills. A barrier of sword chi coiled around him, wrapping him up entirely. However, it was a pity that the Berserk Dragon Fists were a masterpiece of the Berserk Heavenly Force stacked at the peak of Dragon Defense. If the sword race being was at its peak, it would have been barely able to block it. But now, with 6 fist lights flying towards it, the sword race being could not block it at all. Although he had activated his sword chi to negate 3 of the fist lights, there were still 3 fist lights that landed on his body. The terrifying power of the Berserk Divine Rune blasted 3 large holes in his body. Some light blue liquid splashed out from his body, which was equivalent to the blood of the human race and the demon race. Boundless Grasp. For Symbol's killing prison, Long Yu didn't stop. He used the Boundless Grasp and the 4 Symbols killing prison at the same time. Moreover, he used them together with his 5 clones. They directly enveloped the sword race. The 4 Symbols killing prison attacked from the outside, and the Boundless Grasp attacked from the inside. They directly surrounded the sword race. The sword race cultivator defended with all his might. Countless streams of sword chi exploded forth, yet he was unable to defend against Long Yu's attacks. In the end, countless death threads coiled around his body. Coupled with the jungle demon god runes, the limitless grasp exploded forth from within his body. The sword race finally couldn't resist anymore. His spirit and soul were directly destroyed by Long Yu. He fell into a state of death. My points increased by 72 points. Not bad. When he killed the sword race, Long Yu's eyes lit up. In this way, his total points reached 198. It should be enough for him to pass through the advancement area. Of course, the premise was that he didn't open the other treasure chests. Now that he killed the sword race expert, he immediately attracted the attention of the other sword race experts. This made his situation even more dangerous. Chapter 1528. Right now, Long Yu's plan was to open as many treasure chests as possible before he could reach the 5th region. If there was an opportunity to kill the foreign races, he would do it. If there wasn't, he would continue on like this. Currently, he had a total of 198 points. According to usual practice, it should be more or less enough. In the past, every time the eroding moon ancient region opened, there weren't many people who could enter the 5th region. Usually, there were only 2 or 3. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to enter the 5th region. Moreover, Long Yu's martial Dao realm was only at the 4th stage sovereign realm. It wouldn't be easy for him to stay alive in such a place, let alone find an opportunity to kill the other foreign races, opening treasure chests and advancing. Although it was difficult, Long Yu's progress was relatively smooth. After the sword race was killed, many of the foreign race's attention was focused on him. Clearly, many of his techniques were known to them. For example, the Devil Dust Clones, 9 Underworld Sphere, and Absolute Space Domain. However, a hidden technique like the Boundless Grasp couldn't be known to others. Long Yu didn't dismiss the Devil Dust Clones for the time being because he wasn't sure if he was out of danger. There were many foreign races eyeing him covetously. After all, he had killed the 5-Zhong Long Fish and the Sword Race expert. He definitely had a lot of points. However, those foreign races weren't willing to retreat. The one closest to Long Yu was 500 zhong away. If they retreated to deal with Long Yu, they would have to spend at least 10 points. If the situation changed, it wouldn't be worth it. Long Yu saw that there were many foreign races that had stopped in front of him. They were waiting for him to advance. He felt helpless and could only choose to stay where he was. In any case, Long Yu wasn't in a hurry. He had points now. If he advanced and entered the encirclement of the foreign races, he would definitely die. In any case, Long Yu's position was very clear. No matter what, he couldn't get involved in such a chaotic battle. First, his martial Dao realm was too low. Even the shockwaves from other people's battle could cause great damage to him. Secondly, he had already attracted the attention of the other races. If he barged in again, he would definitely be targeted by the other races. There was no way he could survive. Anyway, we've already attracted the attention of others. Long Yu thought to himself as a gleam of light appeared in his eyes. After that, he took out the Dragon Blood Saint Twin diagram and activated it to completely eliminate his aura. After that, he transformed into nothingness and moved forward. In this state, no one would be able to find him or sense his location. Furthermore, he had also removed all traces of his aura, so it was impossible for others to deduce his location through deduction. If Long Yu appeared in the middle of the battle and turned into nothingness, then there would be no time to clean up the traces, and the other non-humans would be able to find him easily. But now, the other party wasn't willing to waste points by retreating. This was a very good opportunity for Long Yu. He immediately cleared away all traces of his presence and transformed into nothingness, once again becoming invisible, just like when he first arrived at the advancement area. As soon as Long Yu disappeared, the other non-humans who were waiting for him were all dumbfounded. All of a sudden, the other non-humans stopped waiting and continued forward. However, they were certain that he could disappear into thin air. This guy could actually disappear into thin air. In that case, didn't that mean that the purple crystal box was also taken by this human kid? Even though the other non-humans were aware of this, they couldn't do anything to Long Yu. Whether it was the naked eye, the spiritual sense, or the power of deduction, they couldn't detect Long Yu's presence. It was as if Long Yu had completely disappeared from the advancement area, or he might have chosen to leave. They couldn't possibly focus all their attention on Long Yu. However, everyone present, including the machine, was already on guard when they saw Long Yu disappear. In this state, it was almost impossible for Long Yu to launch a sneak attack. He could only wait for a particularly good opportunity to strike. Otherwise, he could only continue forward and strive to enter the 5th zone. Just by looking at the purple crystal chests in the advancement area and the purple crystal chests in the starting area, one could tell how precious the chests in the 5th area were. If he could obtain the boxes in the 5th zone, then his reward would be the greatest. Long Yu was also a little interested in the inheritance of the gods. However, he also knew that the possibility of him obtaining the inheritance of the gods wasn't high. In fact, it could even be said to be very low. If he were to look forward to this, he would definitely be disappointed in the end. Therefore, his goal was to enter the 5th zone and open some treasure boxes. After that, he would stop while he was ahead and obtain as many things as he could. At the very least, Long Yu felt that the items in the advancement area weren't his limit. He should be able to enter the 5th zone. Very soon, Long Yu passed by the non-humans. Of course, the non-humans couldn't sense Long Yu's presence. They were all still scheming against each other and were cautious. Occasionally, there would be a small conflict, but they would quickly disperse and resolve it. This was because there were currently only over 30 non-humans left in the entire advancement area. The entire area was so vast, and the non-humans were relatively far away from each other. Moreover, there weren't any treasure boxes nearby, so there were fewer conflicts. However, in front of him, an hour later, two amethyst chests would appear side by side. At that time, there would definitely be many outsiders fighting over them. That would be one of Long Yu's chances. Who knows, he might even be able to fish in troubled waters and kill one of the outsiders, gaining some points from there. After an hour, many non-humans arrived near the two purple crystal boxes. However, they didn't dare to make a move at the moment. Instead, they stopped beside the two purple crystal boxes. Even the strongest machine didn't make a move. Instead, it chose to watch from aside. This was because even that machine knew that if it was the first to open the box, there would definitely be other alien races that would join forces to attack it. Even the strongest machine race wouldn't dare to become the target of such a public attack. Under Long Yu's incorporeal state, it was definitely impossible for him to open the amethyst chest. Furthermore, he currently had less than 200 points on him. If he opened the chest, he might not be able to reach the 5th region. It should be known that according to the experience of the predecessors, the treasures in the 5th zone weren't placed in the boxes. Instead, they would appear directly in front of you. You wouldn't even need to spend points to take the treasures. This was what Long Yu wanted to see. Now, that he had to deduct points to take a box, it wasn't that good for people like Long Yu who were weaker. After all, it was too difficult for Long Yu to kill other non-humans. Therefore, Long Yu hid near the two purple crystal boxes. He was about 2,000 feet away. Within 2,000 feet, there were about 20 non-humans in a stalemate. As for the other non-humans, they didn't want to bother with the two purple crystal boxes. They directly passed by and continued forward. After all, those non-humans knew that they wouldn't be able to gain any advantage in such a chaotic battle. Therefore, they couldn't be bothered to participate. At this time, Long Yu observed. The non-humans in the field were really strange. The members of the mechanical race were covered in silver light and looked very beautiful. They were like something that Long Yu had seen in his previous life, Transformers. There was no need to doubt their strength. At the very least, they were on the same level as Yufei. There was also the Ice God race, Desolate God race, and other foreign races. They fought fiercely in the outside world, but in the eroding Moon Ancient region, they actually joined forces and formed a small group. It wasn't that easy to target this small group of foreign races. At least, even the strongest machine race didn't dare to do so. There was another race whose body was completely in a liquid state. It was almost transparent and didn't stand out among the other non-humans. However, Long Yu had seen this foreign race fight before. It had forcefully swallowed another non-human race into its body and wrapped it in a transparent liquid. It was actually digested while it was still alive. It was obvious how terrifying it was. The black fog foreign race that had been wandering at the edge of the field came to the side of the two purple crystal chests. However, it didn't seem to have any intention of opening the two purple crystal chests. Instead, it was waiting for the right time. Long Yu observed the situation of each non-human race in the field and roughly estimated the situation if they were to fight later. There were more than 20 foreign races gathered here. Only a small part of them were here for the two purple crystal chests. Most of them wanted to kill other non-humans to obtain more points. Only by obtaining more points could they open more chests and obtain more treasures. Therefore, the other non-humans were the real targets of these powerful existences. Long was clear about this. Therefore, he wasn't anxious at all. These foreign races would definitely fight each other. The only difference was whether it was sooner or later. Right now, the thing that Long Yu didn't lack the least was time. The longer he stayed here, the more stable Long Yu's martial Dao realm would be. If he waited for a month, Long Yu would open another creation. It would definitely allow him to step into the 5th stage Great Sovereign Realm. When the fight starts later, there will definitely be foreign races that are seriously injured and want to escape. If they escape in my direction and want to retreat, then I can just stop them and kill them. Long Yu's position was relatively at the back. From a psychological analysis, if there were seriously injured foreign races that wanted to escape, they would most likely come from this direction. Chapter 1529. Long Yu hid in a good spot and prepared to watch the clash between the foreign races in the center. With 2 purple crystal boxes around, the clash would definitely break out. The only difference would be who would make the first move and who would expose their weakness first. Beside the 2 purple crystal chests, there were stronger and weaker outsiders. But even the weaker outsiders were waiting for an opportunity, hoping to take advantage of the chaos, to take advantage of the situation. On the other hand, the stronger ones were choosing their prey in the dark. If any of the weaker ones showed any weakness, they would most likely be killed. Long Yu was extremely patient. If these foreign races didn't make a move, Long Yu could keep them waiting. He didn't have to worry about the time limit in the eroding moon ancient region. After all, there was no time limit in the advanced region. Apart from the 1-month limit in the starting region, there would be no time limit in the regions after the eroding moon ancient region. The only limit was the points. Just like that, Long Yu hid in the shadows and observed the situation. Every single action of the outsiders, or rather, every single action that they displayed, fell into Long Yu's eyes, allowing him to make preparations in advance for any eventualities that might occur. In front of him, the other 20 foreign races that didn't participate in the clash had already flown thousands of feet away, and the foreign races that stayed behind didn't make a move. If they didn't make a move, the foreign races in front of them would reach the other purple crystal boxes. Of course, without points, they wouldn't be interested in opening the treasure boxes unless they were people who only wanted to make a fortune in the 5th region. However, the powerhouses who could come to the advanced region were basically very picky. Most of them wanted to go to the 5th region. The 5th region was where the competition was the most intense. All the powerhouses were gathered together, and the treasures they could obtain were also the most valuable. Just as Long Yu was paying attention, the situation on the stage suddenly changed. The first to make a move wasn't the machine race or the stronger foreign race in the Black Fog. Instead, it was the foreign Protoss alliance. There were mainly an ice god, a desolate god, and an earth god among the foreign god clans in this advancement zone. The temporary alliance, formed by these 3 foreign god clans, was extremely powerful and could even surpass the individual combat power of the Machine Clan. Therefore, the 3 foreign god race beings joined forces and prepared to attack. Their target was a peak 7th stage sovereign realm alien covered in metallic light. This alien wasn't from the Langya star field, but its aura was a little chaotic. It was obvious that it was injured. Pick the soft persimmon and pinch it. This was a principle that everyone understood. In any case, everyone had points on them. No matter what, killing one was one. If the 3 Ouroboros joined forces to deal with this metallic light alien, there was basically no suspense. However, their movements had become the fuse that ignited the entire chaotic situation. As soon as one of the 20 outsiders made a move, the others who were already nervous were thrown into chaos. Some of the things that they were planning were immediately brought forward, and the power of countless divine runes exploded forth. The battle royale in this advancement area had finally begun. This battle royale basically determined who would be the final winner in this advancement area. The final winner was, of course, the expert who killed the most opponents, obtained the most points, and opened the most boxes. Long Yu didn't want to be in the limelight. He just wanted to pick up some heads in the chaos. That was enough. As for killing 2 or even 3 outsiders, Long Yu also knew that with his strength, it was completely wishful thinking. Such an opportunity had come from the very beginning. The metallic light alien that was besieged by the 3 foreign god tribes looked like a rocket. Obviously, it was wearing the special attire of its race and looked very cool. However, this injured alien was only left in a sorry state. After all, it was already very difficult to fight 1 against 3, not to mention that it was already injured. Therefore, it basically didn't last long. This alien fought while retreating, using all kinds of methods. Many clones condensed to block the Ice God race and the Desolate God race, respectively. It was only facing the Earth God race alone, so the situation was still okay. It wouldn't be completely killed for the time being. However, this alien was still observing the situation on the battlefield as it retreated. It didn't completely give up the idea of taking advantage of the situation, and this gave Long Yu a chance. Long Yu was originally hiding in the direction of the opponent's retreat. Now that the opponent's attention wasn't on his back, if Long Yu suddenly launched a surprise attack, the possibility of killing it in an instant was definitely not low. Of course, the opponent was in existence at the peak of the 7th stage Great Ruler realm. If Long Yu acted rashly, he might fail miserably. After all, the superimposed wild, fighting heavenly power on his body had long disappeared. Without the extremely powerful wild fighting dragon fist, if Long Yu wanted to kill the opponent, he basically had to combine the boundless grasp and the 4 symbols killing prison. However, Long Yu wasn't sure of the opponent's specific strength and whether it had a trump card. Therefore, even if he suddenly used these 2 methods in a sneak attack, he couldn't guarantee that he would definitely be able to kill the opponent. And once Long Yu was exposed, he would have to face more than just this alien. Therefore, even in the face of this opportunity to sneak attack, Long Yu still held his breath. Unless it was a 100% successful sneak attack, Long Yu wouldn't make a move. Although the alien that retreated was retreating, it definitely hadn't lost its combat strength. Otherwise, it wouldn't be thinking about fishing in troubled waters, but choosing to retreat and escape. Facing the joint attack of 3 alien races at the same time, the pressure would definitely be great. Under such pressure, this metallic alien still had the thought to take advantage of the situation. It was obvious that it definitely had many tricks up its sleeves that it hadn't used. If Long Yu really jumped out to launch a sneak attack, he would really be naive and foolish. The opponent kept retreating, and very soon, it almost retreated to the vicinity of Long Yu. However, Long Yu held his breath and didn't make any moves. Instead, he looked at the overall situation and observed the overall situation. Basically, the 20 or so alien races present were divided into 6 or 7 groups. Some of the groups worked together to surround and attack, while some of the groups were completely in a chaotic battle. There was only one place that was special. The black fog alien directly swallowed a mud-shaped alien, and then the mud-shaped alien went completely silent. Of course, the black fog alien needed time to completely digest the mud-shaped alien. Therefore, after the black fog alien swallowed the mud-shaped alien, it quietly hid at the side and didn't continue to participate in the battle. This way, there were many alien races that had their eyes on the black fog alien. Evidently, even though the foreign being in the black fog had just devoured a soft mud foreign being, its battle prowess had been restricted. That was because some of the alien races in the black fog were familiar with their devouring methods. Once they devoured a powerful opponent, the alien race in the black fog would need a period of time to digest it. Only then would they be able to kill the opponent completely. Otherwise, they would only be able to seal the opponent's power. As for the black fog alien, it could only devour one opponent at a time. Of course, the method of judgment was based on the opponent's spirit. Only by completely destroying the opponent's spirit could it continue to devour the next opponent. Therefore, at this time, there were 3 or 4 alien races that had their eyes on the black fog alien. They knew that it wasn't too much of a threat for the time being, so they wanted to completely eliminate it. When Long Yu paid attention, he found that the black fog alien's battle was all about spirit attacks. Obviously, it was the same as the soul race. If they used some physical attacks to deal with the black fog, it would have no effect. This black fog alien was similar to the soul race, but its body was condensed from black fog. Compared to the soul race, which had no body at all, it still had some form. Although it was floating, it was still a body. Long Yu observed the battle for a while and found that the black fog alien spirit power was extremely strong. Even though there were 3 powerful alien races attacking it at the same time, they couldn't break through its spirit defense. Even if it couldn't launch a counterattack, it was impossible for the black fog alien to be defeated in a short period of time. This phenomenon made Long Yu narrow his eyes. If these alien races all used their spirit power, then Long Yu could have a chance to take a risk. Of course, this contained great danger, but if he succeeded, it would be a great harvest. What Long Yu wanted to rely on was the secret martial art of the pure world body, and most importantly, the pure world soul mirror at the peak level. Now, Long Yu must have been remembered by these alien races. Once he appeared, there would definitely be many alien races chasing after him. After all, he had killed the 5 Zhonglong fish and the sword race expert, so he must have a lot of points on him. In this case, once he appeared near the black fog, he would definitely attract the attention of those alien races, and they would attack him. Now, the only thing that Long Yu was worried about was that these alien races were using spirit power to attack each other. But if Long Yu appeared, would they use other methods instead of spirit attacks? If that was the case, the rebound effect of the pure world body would be completely ineffective. No matter what, Long Yu couldn't act now. At the very least, he had to wait until the black fog alien race and the other alien race's battle reached a climax. In the battlefield, the machine race expert was fiercely attacking an abyss race expert. That abyss race expert resisted with difficulty and kept retreating, but it didn't retreat towards Long Yu's direction. This made Long Yu feel that it was a pity. Otherwise, Long Yu could have tried to sneak attack this abyss race expert. Chapter 1530. The situation on the battlefield became more and more intense. Half an hour after the battle started, some of the alien races started to get injured. The place that Long Yu paid the most attention to was the location of the black fog alien. After approximately the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the black fog alien had finally completely digested the soft mud alien that it had swallowed into its body. Next, the black fog alien race finally used all kinds of techniques. Without exception, all of them were mental attacks, and it fought against the alien races that were besieging it with mental attacks. Moreover, it launched a counterattack. There was no doubt that the black fog alien race was powerful. In terms of one-on-one strength, the black fog alien race and the machine race were among the strongest alien races in this advanced zone. Therefore, as soon as the alien in the black fog attacked the other alien races, it immediately showed off its abilities. Endless black fog rolled out, containing an unparalleled spiritual and soul-destroying power, and the 3 alien races were all sucked into it. Of course, even for a powerful being like the black fog alien race, it would not be easy for it to fight against 3 alien races alone in the advanced zone. Moreover, even if the black fog alien race could defeat the 3 alien races, it would not be easy for it to kill them. Most importantly, this is the eroding moon ancient domain, Long Yu thought to himself. The alliance between the 3 alien races was definitely not solid. If one of them was slightly weaker and fell into a dangerous situation first, it was very likely that its teammates would turn around and kill it just to get half of the points it had. Therefore, the alliance here was not reliable. Everyone was acting for their own interests. Even if they temporarily joined forces, they would not always join forces, as accidents were most likely to happen at critical moments. After all, the 3 alien races were only from the wild sand star field, so they had some understanding of each other, which was the basis for them to join forces. However, outside the eroding moon ancient domain in the wild sand star field, the 3 alien races were also enemies with each other. It was just like the alliance between the 3 alien races. In the eroding moon ancient domain, they could temporarily ally with each other, but once they left, they would be enemies. Moreover, if there was a good opportunity for them in the eroding moon ancient domain, they would not let it go. Therefore, both the black fog alien race and the machine race powerhouses who were besieged were very clear about this. Their counterattack was completely focused on one of the opponents, and they completely ignored the other opponents. This was the most likely way to disrupt the other party's formation and cause the other party's temporary alliance to reveal a flaw. Otherwise, even the black fog alien race and the machine race would have a hard time fighting against the 3 of them alone. Long Yu constantly observed the situation in the field, and at the same time, he kept thinking about the idea that had popped up in his mind, thinking about the success rate. Timing was the most important. If he completed this mission, Long Yu could simply charge forward at his fastest speed and ignore everything else. Of course, The prerequisite was that this mission had to be completed successfully. Long Yu pondered and calculated without end. In the end, he was sure that so long as he grasped the right timing, he would be able to complete the plan in his heart. As time passed, the battle between the alien in the black fog and the three opponents was in full swing. Moreover, one of the alien beings that looked like a flower was constantly being attacked by the alien in the black fog, and the destructive power of the alien's mental power completely surrounded it. If one of the opponents was seriously injured and threatened, it would be very inconvenient for Long Yu to make a move. First, it was equivalent to having one less opponent, so the chances of Long Yu gaining a lot would be reduced. Second, it was possible that the opponent's attention would not be focused on Long Yu. Let's wait a little longer. Long Yu controlled his temper and continued to wait. He hoped that the demonic flower alien race fellow would be able to break out of its current predicament and not be killed so easily by the black fog alien race. Fortunately, the demonic flower alien race immediately retreated when it realized that it was in great danger. Countless green, red, and yellow vines quickly waved around its body, and the vines surged with surging wood origin power, which blocked the black fog's mental attack. Once the demonic flower alien race retreated, the black fog alien race could no longer chase after it, because the other two alien races were attacking. This was the time Long Yu's heart moved, and he finally decided to take a risk. When he transformed into nothingness, he appeared beside the foreign flower demonic being and used the boundless grasp and the four symbols slaughtering prison on it. He acted as if he had been hiding at the side, and when he saw that there was an opportunity to kill the demonic flower alien race, he suddenly attacked and wanted to take advantage of it. However, the demonic flower alien race reacted just as he appeared. Moreover, the other two alien races and the strongest black fog alien race reacted at the same time. These alien races knew that Long Yu had killed the 15-foot-long fish and the sword race expert, so they knew that he had a lot of points. At this moment, the four alien races experts, including the black fog alien race expert, attacked Long Yu at almost the same time. This was because they all knew that a mere rank 4 great ruler would definitely not be able to withstand the combined attack of the four of them. The only difference was who would be able to take Long Yu's head. As for the demonic flower alien race, it was facing Long Yu's attack at this moment, and it didn't care at all. The red, yellow, and green vines all over the demonic flower's body began to dance. The wood elemental primordial power wrapped around its entire body, instantly purifying the negative effects of the dragon's imperial realm grip. Even the damage to its soul and mind caused by the dark demon divine text did not harm it at all. As expected of a race that focused on the research of mental power, Long Yu thought to himself, but it wasn't out of his expectations. He looked like he wanted to sneak attack the demonic flower alien race, but in reality, his target was all four alien races present, including the black fog alien race. Even the demonic flower alien race looked injured, but in reality, it was completely faking it. When it saw Long Yu, it immediately exposed itself and attacked Long Yu at the same time, wanting to take away Long Yu's head. Long Yu had already seen through most of the four alien races' tactics, and he knew that if he suddenly appeared, the four alien races would most likely use their most common tactics. After all, it was a subconscious action in that instant. Therefore, the position where Long Yu appeared was very clever. The distance between him and the four alien races was completely different. He was the furthest away from the black fog alien race, and the closest to the demonic flower alien race. However, the shocking thing was that the four alien races' attacks landed on Long Yu's head at almost the same time. This was because Long Yu had factored in the speed of the attacks of the four foreign race experts into his calculations. That was why the scene that followed shocked all the foreign race experts present here. The four alien races were completely using mental attacks to fight each other. Therefore, when Long Yu appeared, the four alien races subconsciously used their mental attacks to deal with Long Yu. In other words, the four alien races were most proficient in mental attacks, and if they used them to deal with ordinary weaklings, they could basically kill their opponents with one move. It was the most straightforward. However, they didn't know that this gave Long Yu an excellent opportunity. World Cleansing Soul Mirror. At this time, Long Yu directly used the World Cleansing Soul Mirror, and in the next moment, all the mental attacks of the 4 alien races were reflected back. This was Long Yu's biggest plan. He wanted to kill the 4 alien races at the same time and earn a lot of points. Although this would attract the attention of other alien races, most of the alien races present were in an intense battle now, and it would not be so easy to stop. Moreover, if Long Yu succeeded in this, he would definitely have the highest points out of everyone present. At that time, who could catch up with him directly? Even if the others wanted to chase Long Yu with all their might, they had to consider whether their points were comparable to Long Yu's and whether it was enough for them to chase Long Yu all the way. Therefore, the difficulty lay in how to use the World Cleansing Soul Mirror cleverly at the same time to kill the 4 alien races at the same time. Previously, Long Yu had observed for such a long time, and of course, there were results. He directly predicted the thoughts of the 4 alien races and made some deductions and research on their respective methods. This also led to the 4 alien races' mental attacks on Long Yu being reflected back by the World Cleansing Soul Mirror almost at the same time. Moreover, the time that Long Yu chose was when the 4 alien races had consumed most of their energy. Now that the opponent's mental attacks were reflected back 10 times before the 4 alien races could react, they had already suffered heavy damage in terms of their mental and soul. Because they wanted to use the fastest speed to kill Long Yu in one fell swoop, the methods they used were basically the fastest and had the strongest soul-destroying power. This way, they would be reflected back 10 times, and such a terrifying speed and soul-destroying power would descend upon their bodies. The others in the field saw that when the World Cleansing Soul Mirror appeared, the white light beside Long Yu flickered and directly caused the surrounding 4 alien races to fall into a great crisis. At this time, Long Yu finally released the 12 Devil Dust clones that he had prepared in the pocket dimension for a long time. These 12 Devil Dust clones were condensed when he was preparing to act. Now that they were released, 3 Devil Dust clones formed a group and launched attacks at the 4 alien races. The Limitless Grasp and the 4 symbols slaughtering hell activated by the dark demon, divine runes rapidly condensed in the field, and the lines of death rapidly wrapped around the 4 alien races. The 4 demonic beings had already been severely injured by his own rebound technique. Now that Long Yu had directly executed his technique, the destructive power of his spirit and soul had instantly reached the extreme. If it was any other time, Long Yu's attacks wouldn't be able to harm any of the 4 alien races at all. Just like the demonic flower alien race from before, it could easily resist Long Yu's attacks. But it was different now. In the next moment, Long Yu received a notification from the Eclipse Moon Ancient region. His points had risen 4 times in a row, and this meant that he'd killed all 4 of the outsiders in the battlefield. Chapter 1531. When Long Yu's method succeeded, all the other foreign races in the advanced zone were shocked. Obviously, no one had expected that Long Yu, a mere 4th stage Sovereign Realm human, could kill 4-peak 7th stage Sovereign Realm existences in an instant. Even the machine race didn't possess such a technique. Moreover, even the foreign races that were stronger than the machine race, such as the Golden 6 Winged Ones, might not be able to display such a technique. This also confirmed that the human race definitely had some special techniques. Only a special method could achieve such an effect. Many of the foreign races believed that if Long Yu were to face these 4 foreign race experts head-on, he would definitely not be a match for them. However, as for what kind of technique he had just used, it was impossible for the other foreign races to know. After the 4 foreign race experts were killed by Long Yu, their corpses were directly sent away by the eroding Moon Ancient region. As for Long Yu, he obtained the corresponding points. The 4 foreign race experts added together gave Long Yu 288 points, causing Long Yu's total points to reach 486 points. According to Long Yu's calculations, he would need around 300 points to enter the 5th zone. In other words, he had at least 150 points to open the other boxes. Basically, the moment the points were in his hands, Long Yu did not hesitate and immediately headed towards the 5th region. He did not care about the 2 purple crystal chests that were not far away from him, because he was sure that if he tried to touch those 2 chests, there would only be death waiting for him. Therefore, there was no need for him to provoke the foreign race experts in the field. As he moved forward, other foreign race experts immediately caught up to him. However, Long Yu just happened to make the 12 Devil Dust clones that he had just formed explode on the spot. In that instant, terrifying deep-level 9 Nether Divine runes exploded, enveloping all the foreign race experts present. If it wasn't for the restrictions of the eroding Moon Ancient region, which weakened the power of Sovereign Realm experts' self-destruction, these foreign race experts would have been trapped in the spatial turbulence, just like Consort Yu. Of course, back then, Consort Yu wasn't as strong as she was now. Back then, when Consort Yu had resisted the spatial turbulence, she had even shattered the absolute beginning divine grade absolute beginning treasure. If it had been now, such a thing wouldn't have happened. Every single one of the alien races present was much stronger than Consort Yu, especially the machine race. It charged out of the range of Long Yu's Devil Dust clone self-destruction in an instant and chased after Long Yu. Unfortunately, this was all according to Long Yu's plan. Therefore, Long Yu had long been prepared to escape. No matter how tyrannical the strength of the machine race was, he could only follow behind Long Yu. Even though he was hot on his heels, he could not catch up to Long Yu. This was also because they were in the eroding Moon Ancient domain. Everyone's teleportation was limited to a range of 300 feet. If they were in the outside world, Long Yu wouldn't have dared to do this because he wouldn't be able to escape even if he killed the 4 foreign races. However, things are different now. Everyone's speed was the same. Moreover, Long Yu relied on the Nether Dragon Blade to travel through the void. Every time he traveled through the void, his speed was faster than the other foreign races. As a result, not many people could catch up to Long Yu. Of course, there were many foreign race powerhouses in front of Long Yu, and they had all witnessed what had just happened. If Long Yu flew past those foreign race powerhouses, he would definitely be intercepted by them. Moreover, they might even form groups to chase after Long Yu from all directions. Thus, they would surround Long Yu, and he would have nowhere to run. Therefore, this was the situation that Long Yu was most afraid of. Once the other foreign races showed signs of joining forces, he would have to react immediately and change his direction. Long Yu kept moving forward, but he couldn't widen the distance between him and the machine race powerhouse. Fortunately, as they continued to move forward, their points started to be deducted continuously. From a starting point to this place, a total of 50 points had been deducted, leaving Long Yu with only 436 points. However, his points were already the highest among all the foreign races. It would be considered not bad if the other foreign races had 200 points at most. Therefore, now that 50 points had been deducted, even the machine race didn't dare to chase after them anymore. Because if it couldn't catch up to Long Yu, it wouldn't be able to kill other foreign races to obtain points. It was very likely that it would be teleported out halfway, because its points were depleted. The machine race finally stopped in its tracks. However, Long Yu didn't relax, because even more difficult things were still ahead of him. The current him was no longer a hunter hidden in the shadows, but rather a prey exposed in front of everyone. No matter which Outlander race it was, they all wanted to kill him and obtain the points he had. It was very likely that the machine race seemed to have stopped, but in fact, it was still chasing after Long Yu. After all, Long Yu didn't know the specific methods of the machine race. What if it could form a clone and hide itself to continue the chase? If Long Yu were to stop and the other party caught up to him, he would be instantly killed by the other party. He had to be prepared for the worst-case scenario at all times. Otherwise, if he were not careful, he would be annihilated by the other foreign races. The entire eroding Moon Ancient region was filled with danger. It was impossible for there to be a moment of peace. Fatal danger could appear at any moment. As Long Yu kept moving forward, the more than 20 foreign races in front of him basically focused their attention on him. Some of them even gradually closed in on his path. They knew very well that if Long Yu wanted to escape, he had to move forward without stopping. Even if it was just a slight turn in the route, there was a possibility of being overtaken by the foreign races behind him. It was equivalent to Long Yu being surrounded by a pincer attack. This was not good news for Long Yu. However, it wouldn't be easy for the machine race to capture and kill Long Yu. Very quickly, an ugly foreign race with many tentacles blocked Long Yu's path. It was 600 meters away from Long Yu, and it directly rushed towards Long Yu. Even though this ugly foreign race knew that it would lose some points if it retreated, it couldn't care less. After all, killing Long Yu would give at least 200 points. Compared to the 10 to 20 points that might be deducted if it retreated, it was much more. This foreign race was also a peak 7th stage sovereign realm existence. It was extremely confident that it could stop Long Yu. Unfortunately, it still underestimated Long Yu's methods. Void transformation. When approaching the other party, Long Yu directly chose to transform into nothingness and flashed past the other party. This caught the other party off guard, allowing Long Yu to pass through its body. In just 2 breaths' time, Long Yu had already overtaken the other party. The other party immediately followed the aura that Long Yu left behind to deduce Long Yu's position. Unfortunately, by the time it deduced Long Yu's position, Long Yu had already passed it and was several hundred meters away. In this way, it would be extremely difficult for it to catch up to Long Yu. It could be said that as long as there were no accidents, this fellow definitely wouldn't be able to catch up to Long Yu. Although Long Yu had passed this checkpoint, there were still many foreign races blocking the way in front of him. One of them was a slender foreign race with hands like a human. Its body was wrapped like a cocoon. It didn't have a head or legs, but it had 2 thin wings on its back. This was also a foreign race from the Langistar field. The human race and the demon race named it the cicada race. The cicada race's body was extremely slender. If it stood upright in the void, it would be at least 3 meters tall. Its hands were also extremely slender, basically equivalent to 10 times the length of a human's arm. At this moment, the cicada race blocked in front of Long Yu. One of its slender, wrapped arms stretched out towards Long Yu, trying to grab him tightly. However, how could Long Yu let the other party get away with it? He once again transformed into nothingness, trying to slip away from the other party's eyes. Although the other party could deduce his current position, it took time to do so. By the time this time passed, Long Yu would have already flashed past this fellow and gone ahead. This fellow wouldn't be able to keep up with Long Yu. However, this cicada race member was obviously smarter than the ugly, tentacled foreign race member. The moment Long Yu disappeared, the cicada race member instantly waved its hands in the surrounding space. A violent tornado was condensed in an instant, trying to pull Long Yu out of hiding nearby. Unfortunately, Long Yu's nothingness transformation was the real thing. It wasn't an ordinary concealment technique. As a result, these tornadoes couldn't pull Long Yu out of the void space. The other party thought that Long Yu had used some powerful concealment technique and that his real body was still nearby. It never imagined that Long Yu would directly transform into nothingness and move forward with the invisible Book of Shadows. The ugly, tentacled foreign race member behind it had grasped Long Yu's specific whereabouts through deduction, but it couldn't catch up at all. If it was another race similar to the tentacled foreign race member, the tentacled foreign race member could use its deduction information to inform its other companions to surround and attack Long Yu. Unfortunately, there were no other members of its kind in the advanced region of the eroding moon ancient region. Even if it exposed Long Yu's location to others, it wouldn't benefit the tentacled foreign race member in any way. Therefore, it naturally wouldn't tell the other foreign races where Long Yu was. It naturally didn't want others to get what it couldn't get. The other foreign races present weren't its allies, and some of them were even its enemies. It was precisely because of these reasons that no one could stop Long Yu from moving forward. Chapter 1532. Long Yu passed by the ugly tentacled alien race member and the slender cicada race member. There were basically no more alien races blocking his way in front of him. However, there were still some aliens around him, trying to stop Long Yu. However, these aliens were all in vain. They couldn't break through Long Yu's nothingness incarnation, so they couldn't immediately find out where Long Yu was. Even if they knew where he was, they couldn't attack him. Nothingness incarnation was a technique derived from the Book of Shadows, and its usefulness in actual combat went without saying. It could be said that it was because of this technique that Long Yu was qualified to enter and exit the eroding moon ancient domain. It was also because of this technique that he was able to survive in many situations before. Long Yu's actions seemed very reckless, but in fact, they were all carefully thought out. If it wasn't for nothingness incarnation, Long Yu might not have participated in the eroding moon ancient domain because it was too dangerous. No matter how much Long Yu wanted to improve, he wouldn't joke around with his life. Unless the obstacle to improving his strength was right in front of him, he had all the time in the world to take his time. Anyway, he had nothing urgent to do now. Long Yu continued to move forward, without the slightest bit of hesitation. Not long after, the water origin power in the Nether Dragon Blade was almost depleted. Although he didn't actually teleport far, he had used void traversal too many times, causing the Nether Dragon Blade to be unable to hold on. At this time, Long Yu felt that he had once again established a strange connection with the Nether Dragon Blade. This connection was even more intimate than the two's telepathic connection, just like when he had finally awakened the Nether Dragon Blade to the second stage. Awakening, second stage. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately felt a little happy. He didn't expect that at this time, his connection with the Nether Dragon Blade could advance further and reach the second stage of awakening. This way, another passive awakening skill was derived. When the Nether Dragon Blade awakened to the first stage, its passive awakening skill was to increase the distance of void traversal. Now that he was at the second level, his awakening skill was to increase the recovery speed of the water origin power in his body. This just happened to solve Long Yu's urgent problem. After all, he was afraid that the water element power in the Netherworld Dragon Blade would be completely used up, causing him to be caught up by the other races. If that happened, Long Yu would want to cry, but no tears would come. Fortunately, he and the Netherworld Dragon Dagger had finally awakened to the second level, forcibly increasing the recovery rate of the water-type primordial energy in the Netherworld Dragon Dagger by 10 times. If he just used void traversal, he wouldn't run out of water-type primordial energy at all. Unless the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger performed a highly destructive skill like Void Burial consecutively, it would be impossible for the recovery of the grand primordial power in the water to keep up with its consumption rate. This was equivalent to being replenished. Under the guidance of the Netherworld Dragon Blade, Long Yu rapidly advanced without any hesitation. At this time, Long Yu had already fixed his eyes on a purple crystal box in a direction ahead. This purple crystal box was about an hour away from him. It wasn't directly in front of him, but slightly to the left. Of course, by the time he could reach that place, the other races would have long been left behind. Long Yu kept moving forward. Even though the other races were tempted, they couldn't catch up to Long Yu at all. On one hand, it was because of speed, and on the other hand, it was because of the points. Right now, Long Yu's points were extremely high, and he could run around as he pleased. However, this was not the case for the other races. In this advancement area, any movement would cost them points. If they spent too many points chasing after someone, it would definitely not be worth it. On one hand, they would have fewer boxes to take, and on the other hand, they would lose the chance to enter the fifth area. Now, it seemed that the possibility of catching up to Long Yu was too low. Hence, although most of the other races were tempted, there weren't many who would really chase after Long Yu. Long Yu wouldn't be careless because of this. Instead, he maintained the fastest speed he could muster. When he reached a place, Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. He seemed to finally heave a sigh of relief and stopped where he was, as if he wanted to rest for a while. At this time, he was already quite a distance away from the other races, and they were all left behind. His action of stopping at this time was completely understandable and could be guessed. After all, no one's power was unlimited, and they couldn't keep teleporting. And this was also enough to attract some potential danger. Not long after Long Yu came to a stop, a turbulent flow of metal suddenly burst out from the void behind him. It was the avatar of the machine race powerhouse. Even if it was just a clone of that powerful machine, it was enough to kill Long Yu. At the same time, Long Yu appeared to be at a loss of what to do. He subconsciously activated the devil dust possession in an attempt to defend himself. However, he was smashed into smithereens by the arm of the machine race's expert clone. Mechanical submersible. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. This was a piece of information that the Nether Void Dragon Blade had obtained from the surrounding space. Although the surrounding information was a bit messy, the Nether Void Dragon Blade still managed to grasp it, and from there, Long Yu learned the name of this move of the machine race. Mechanical submersible was an unbounded level martial skill of the machine race. It could create a shadowless, formless clone to lurk in the void and pursue the enemy. Once the enemy entered the attack range, it would immediately launch a fatal attack. Right now, Long Yu had encountered such a situation. He had been killed by that mechanical submersible. Of course, the reason why Long Yu stopped was because when he stopped, what appeared in front of the others were 10 devil dust clones. His main body had long since transformed into nothingness and continued forward, passing through the void several times. As soon as the mechanical submersible appeared, it completely destroyed one of Long Yu's devil dust clones. This power left Long Yu in awe. If his main body had been there, then the devil dust clones would have met the same fate as his main body. There wouldn't have been any other difference. Facing such an expert head-on, Long Yu would have no choice but to die. But now, of course, he wouldn't fight those outsiders head-on. After using the devil dust clones to lure out the mechanical submersible, Long Yu was even more certain that there were many hidden dangers behind him. No matter how strong his spiritual sense was, he wouldn't be able to detect them. After all, these outsiders had too many tricks up their sleeves. Therefore, he couldn't stop. Although he was now sure that the mechanical submersible wouldn't be able to catch up, Long Yu couldn't be sure that there weren't other things chasing him in the void. Or perhaps there was more than one mechanical submersible? Very clearly, the machine had also quickly realized that its mechanical submersible had only killed one of Long Yu's devil dust clones. Hatefully, it retrieved the mechanical submersible. Long Yu wouldn't be careless because of this. He was always ready to be ambushed and moved forward at his fastest speed. After half an hour, he finally reached the vicinity of the amethyst box. Even now, he didn't dare to slow down in the slightest. He could only release a devil dust clone that he had condensed along the way, and then let that devil dust clone obtain the amethyst box. Afterwards, Long Yu's main body, which was in nothingness, stored it in the small world. From beginning to end, only Long Yu's devil dust clone had appeared in front of the other outsiders. His main body was completely hidden in the void. However, Long Yu knew that many outsiders had already deduced the location of his main body. In truth, even if there were outsiders who had the means to chase him here, there definitely wouldn't be many of them. Long Yu accurately observed the methods and movements of all the outsiders. He could see that the majority of the outsiders had completely lost interest in him, because they definitely wouldn't be able to catch up to him. Only a small number of outsiders still focused their attention in his direction from time to time. These outsiders that were still paying attention to him hadn't sensed his aura, so they couldn't deduce Long Yu's location. Furthermore, Long Yu hadn't sensed that anyone was deducing his location. In such a situation, it was either that no one was deducing his location, or that the other party's deductive abilities were too strong for Long Yu to sense. In any case, the direction in which Long Yu's main body was hidden was extremely well hidden. Even if something sneak attacked him while he was collecting the boxes, he would be able to react quickly to ensure his own survival. I got a box. Long Yu continued to advance. After the Devil Dust clone obtained the purple crystal box, he directly chose to self-destruct. With a loud explosion, The Devil Dust clone was directly destroyed, and a whirlpool of Netherworld divine characters appeared in the field. This situation caused the outsiders in the distance to be shocked. This human brat was actually so cautious. Long Yu continued to advance. At this time, the points he had spent to advance had already reached 150 points. In this way, there definitely weren't many that could keep up with Long Yu. Of course, there was also the possibility that there might be other terrifying methods, like the mechanical submersible staring at Long Yu. Therefore, Long Yu didn't relax in the slightest. He continued to move forward, rushing ahead of the others, picking up box after box. During this time, Long Yu's internal energy had been consumed too much. He kept taking medicinal pills to recover. Even if the effects were halved when he took the second pill, there was nothing he could do. Right now, he simply didn't have the time to stop self-destructing and reconstruct his body. Even if it was just 2 breaths of time, his devil dust heart could be completely destroyed in an instant. Fortunately, after taking 10 of these medicinal pills, even if the recovery effects are halved, I can still last until the entrance of the 5th region. Long Yu looked at the black hole-like spirit formation in front of him. After some guesses and calculations, he breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 1533. In order to reduce the consumption of energy in his body, Long Yu had to use as few Devil Dust clones as possible. This meant that he had to open the purple crystal chests. That way, he would be able to use up his points the fastest, open the least number of chests, and obtain the best items. As he got closer and closer to the black hole, he finally obtained 3 purple crystal chests and 1 white jade chest. He didn't even have time to open the chests before he continued on his way. He was afraid that something was constantly chasing after him and taking the opportunity to assassinate him. This worry couldn't be ignored. Otherwise, it could very well bring him the danger of death. 3 purple crystal chests and 1 white jade chest were a total of 180 points. By the time Long Yu got close to the black hole, he only had 6 points left. After some calculations, it was true that 300 points were needed to get through from the beginning. Those with less than 300 points could not enter the 5th region. Therefore, he had to kill at least 3 aliens to have a chance to enter the 5th region. Moreover, if he only killed 3 aliens, he wouldn't even be able to obtain a single chest. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to enter the 5th region due to the deduction of points. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to enter the 5th region. Long Yu guessed that Red Oriole and Moonsong's current situation was most likely not too good. Their strength in this advancement region was equivalent to that 5-meter-long fish that Long Yu had killed. They could only find some chests from the side. As for going to the 5th region, it was most likely impossible. Only Consort Yu, with her own strength, could kill more than 3 aliens and obtain a certain number of chests. Going to the 5th region was also her goal, so it was impossible for her to give up. I'm finally here. Long Yu finally walked into the black, hole-like formation in the void. After that, a black light enveloped his entire body and teleported him away from this area. It took him a total of 2 days to teleport out of the advancement region. This could be said to be a very short time. Compared to other aliens, it was much shorter. This was because he was constantly moving at his fastest speed. This also made him the first person to reach the 5th region out of all the advanced regions. Even if there were super powerhouses like the Golden Six-Winged in the other zones, such powerhouses would not be able to head to the 5th zone so easily. They would definitely have to kill more opponents in the advanced zone and earn more points before heading to the 5th zone. For people like Long Yu, who happened to arrive in the 5th region without any points, even if he gained 100 points because he crossed regions, he wouldn't be able to open many treasure chests in the 5th region. An expert like the Golden Six-Winged naturally had to ensure that he could obtain as many points as possible before heading to the 5th zone. If he could obtain more than 300 points in the 5th zone, his gains would be the greatest. One had to know that in the 5th region, they would encounter extremely powerful existences. It would not be easy to kill them and obtain points. In comparison, earning points in the advancement area was the most worthwhile. Long Yu could not do that. If he continued to stay in the advancement area, he would definitely die. After being teleported away by the black hole-like teleportation formation, Long Yu appeared in a sealed white space. This space was not big, but it was filled with rich creation power, which made Long Yu rather happy. This should be the preparation space for the 5th zone. It would only open when all the other alien races had disappeared from the advancement area. However, the advancement area was different from the starting area. The starting area would forcefully teleport people out after a month, but the advancement area would not. Therefore, it was impossible for Long Yu to know the exact opening time of the 5th region. After all, the situation in each advanced region was different. There might be some outsiders hiding in a corner of the advanced region and not moving for a very long time. If that was the case, it might really take a month or two to get to the 5th region. Long Yu heaved a sigh of relief when he arrived at the preparation area. At least, this preparation area was a single-person area. It was impossible for others and alien races to enter. This allowed him to absorb as much creation power as possible to expand his demi-world and open the 3 chests he had obtained in the advancement area. After Long Yu left the advancement area, a cloud of black smoke appeared in front of the black, hole-like teleportation formation. In front of the black hole that looked like a teleportation array, a cloud of black smoke suddenly appeared. This black smoke was actually one of the clones that had been following behind Long Yu. The alien clone had been looking for an opportunity to kill Long Yu, but Long Yu did not give it any chance. At this moment, after the black smoke appeared, the original body of the alien race directly chose to switch to where the black smoke was. This was a technique of the alien race. The original body and the clone would switch places, and this way, they could quickly head to the 5th zone. Even though the points were not enough, the black hole teleportation formation was right in front of them. Unfortunately, this foreign being was thinking too much. When the original body was directly teleported to the location of the clone, before his body appeared from the void, the Corrosion Moon Ancient region calculated the distance between his current position and his previous position and directly deducted all his points. After his points were deducted, he would, of course, be teleported out. His body was sent out of the eroding Moon Ancient domain before he could even see the black hole teleportation formation. Although there were all kinds of foreign clans in the eroding Moon Ancient domain, it was impossible for them to challenge the rules of the eroding Moon Ancient domain and take advantage of the loopholes. In the preparation area of the 5th zone, Long Yu began to open the 4 chests. Among them, there was a white jade chest, and Long Yu was the first to open it. Even though it was a white jade chest, the things inside were definitely much better than the purple crystal chest in the starting zone. Long Yu did not know what he would find inside, but it was obvious that the things inside were definitely treasures that were definitely rare in the outside world. As he opened the white jade chest, a blue light shone out. It's actually a creation item, and there are 3 first-grade heavenly crystal creation items. Long Yu's eyes lit up. There were 3 first-grade heavenly crystal creation items in the chest, and they were all shell-like objects that shone with a blue light. Void shells. Each of the 3 void shells was worth more than 100 million army merit points. In fact, these void shells even contained rich water-type primordial power. After absorbing the power of the void shells, a cultivator's comprehension of water-type primordial power would also increase. Long Yu was not in a hurry to absorb the 3 void shells. After all, he had just become a 4th-stage sovereign not long ago, so there was no need for him to be in a hurry to raise his cultivation realm. Even the Devil Dust Heart, a martial path secret technique, had already reached the peak of the 9th level, so there was no need for him to consume the power of creation for the time being. Immediately after, Long Yu began to open a purple crystal chest. In this purple crystal chest, there was a wheel similar to the one consort you had seen before. However, the items on the wheel were much better than the ones consort you had seen before, and the points required to activate them were also much lower. Now that Long Yu had crossed the zone, his points had increased by 100. The items on the wheel were at least transcendent grade creation items. The power of creation contained within them was at least 20 times that of a first-grade heavenly crystal creation item. Previously, on the wheel that Yufei had opened, the transcendent creation item that appeared required 80 points to exchange for. But now, on the wheel in front of Long Yu, if he wanted to obtain this transcendent creation item, he only needed 40 points to exchange for it. This was equivalent to the points obtained by killing one less alien race. This was obviously the benefit of obtaining the wheel in the advancement zone. However, there was another option. Long Yu saw that on the roulette, he could choose to spin the roulette without consuming any points. As long as it appeared on the roulette, he would have a certain chance of obtaining it. It all depended on his luck. Long Yu saw that there were cultivation methods from the 7th to the 9th level of the assimilation field on the wheel. This was still relatively useful to him. However, if he wanted to choose this martial arts secret technique, he would need to consume 40 points. This was still rather difficult for him right now. After all, he only had a total of 106 points. It would be best if he could spin the wheel without consuming points. The worst item on the wheel was a fragmented divine source item that consumed 20 points. Even if he obtained a fragmented divine source item, it would still be considered not bad. Long Yu did not hesitate and immediately began to spin the wheel. There were a total of 10 options on it. Among them, there were 4 items that consumed 20 points, 2 items that consumed 40 points, 2 items that consumed 60 points, 1 item that consumed 80 points, and 1 item that consumed 100 points. The item that consumed 100 points was, of course, the most valuable. It was a cultivation method of a divine martial art. It might be useful to others, but it was really not of much use to Long Yu. He did not even have time to comprehend the 4 symbols death prison, let alone another divine martial art. Of course, if the wheel turned to this divine martial art, it would definitely be worth it for Long Yu. After all, this item was extremely valuable in the outside world. Even if Long Yu did not cultivate it himself, it would definitely be able to greatly increase the power of the entire Void Galaxy. The 2 items that consumed 60 points contained revealed divine text. Through these 2 items, one could gradually comprehend those revealed divine text. Even for Long Yu, it would be useful. He could feel that one of the transparent bottles contained rich space attribute divine text. If he could comprehend it, his understanding of space and water genesis force would definitely improve a lot. He would also have more options in battle. As for the option that consumed 80 points, it was a complete divine source item. It was a small golden sword. He did not know what it was used for. Long Yu did not hesitate and immediately began to spin the wheel. No matter what he got, it would definitely not be a loss for him. Chapter 1534. As the needle on the wheel gradually stopped, Long Yu realized that what he would get would be the small golden sword, the god spirit martial skill, and the cultivation method of assimilation. He just didn't know where it would stop. He didn't care. After the wheel started to spin, it wasn't up to Long Yu to decide where it would stop. It was completely up to luck. He just needed to wait and see. In any case, the 3 things that might appear now were all very good for Long Yu. No matter which one it was, it wouldn't be cheap. Although the cultivation method of assimilation was relatively weak, Long Yu had already obtained the cultivation method for the first 6 levels, so it wouldn't be too much of a loss if he got it. As the wheel gradually stopped, Long Yu realized that what he would get was already confirmed. It's actually this kind of divine source item. Long Yu's heart moved. He looked at the small golden sword that jumped out of the wheel. It was a small golden sword that was as long as Long Yu's forearm. It didn't have a hilt, so it was obvious that this small golden sword wasn't designed for people to hold with their hands. After all, other alien races didn't have body parts like humans and demons. If other alien races obtained this small golden sword, they would be able to use it freely. Long Yu held the small golden sword in his hand and realized that the power within it was extremely restrained. He almost couldn't feel any power emanating from the small golden sword. However, he could sink his divine sense into the small golden sword now. He found that the small golden sword actually contained extremely dense power. If it were to completely erupt, it would definitely surpass the current Void Spirit Dragon Dagger. After all, this was something left behind by a super demigod after death. The divine sense and the like had naturally been erased long ago. Perhaps to the legendary god spirit experts, the existence of demigods was nothing. It was just like how the great ruler had power over the life and death of demigods. Therefore, there were actually so many divine source items in the eroding moon ancient domain. In the starting area, all he obtained were broken divine source items. Once they reached the advancement area, they would be able to obtain complete quasi-divine source items. Moreover, the power contained within each quasi-divine source item was far beyond the imagination of a great ruler. For example, if Long Yu took this small golden sword and self-detonated it, the power would probably be able to severely injure Jiuyo Dragon Emperor's body. Of course, Jiuyo Dragon Emperor had the devil dust heart in his body. Even if he was seriously injured, he could recover extremely quickly. However, this was enough to prove the power of this small golden sword. If I want to use a complete divine source item, I have to subdue it with my divine sense. Long Yu remembered what Flamboyant, the demigod of the Demigod College, had told them before they came to the eroding moon ancient region. This complete demigod source item was one of them. After all, there were many things in the eroding moon ancient domain that they had never seen before. Now, Long Yu really came in handy. The process of subduing a divine source item was not complicated or difficult. After all, the divine source items in the eroding moon ancient domain had their divine sense erased. If it was a new divine source item that was born from a demigod foreign race that had just been killed, it would still contain the consciousness of the demigod. With Long Yu's cultivation, it would be almost impossible to subdue it. However, even though Long Yu could subdue the small golden sword, he could not use much of its power. With the cultivation of a fourth-rank great ruler, he could only use about 1/10 of the power of the small golden sword. He would only be able to use all of its power when he reached the 7th-rank great ruler level. With a complete divine source item, a 7th-rank great ruler could completely challenge ordinary demigod experts. Moreover, this was only something in the eroding moon ancient domain's advancement area. After obtaining it, one would have to bring it out alive to be able to use it. Now that he thought about it, Long Yu realized that when he was fighting against the demigods of the Ice God race and the Desolate God race, the 8-clawed dragon demigod, named Long, he seemed to have a divine source item. He did not know where it came from. It was very likely that this type of divine source item had been obtained from the eroding moon ancient region. This was because this type of divine source item could not be born even after the death of a normal demigod. Only peak demigod existences, like the Dragon Emperor of the Abyss, could be born after their bodies were completely destroyed. Right now, there were no peak demigods in the human race, the demon race, or even a nearby foreign god race. Therefore, if he wanted to obtain a divine source item, the eroding moon ancient domain was the only way. Of course, other than the eroding moon ancient domain, there were naturally other ways. It was just that Long Yu's realm was not high enough, so he did not know about those things. It did not take long for Long Yu's mind to sink into the small golden sword. He discovered that he could already utilize 1/10 of the sword's power. The power contained within the sword was pure metal-type, primordial power. However, Long Yu was only able to utilize it. He was unable to comprehend it. Otherwise, he would not need to enter the absolute beginning golden pool. He could just carry this small golden sword and comprehend the metal origin power at any time and place. However, even if he could only use it, it was still an extremely impressive achievement. Among the entire human race and the Yao race, there weren't many who possessed quasi-divine source artifacts. At most, people like Concubine Yu and Red Oriole could only obtain some broken quasi-divine source artifacts, which were extremely rare. The difference between a broken divine source item and a complete one was just too big. A cultivator could subdue a complete divine source item and actively activate its power. On the other hand, A broken divine source item mostly only had the ability to automatically protect its owner. It was equivalent to a protective talisman. If this small golden sword was broken, Long Yu would not be able to actively activate the metal origin power within it. He could only allow it to protect him. Long Yu casually tried it out and discovered that if he activated 1/10 of the small golden sword's power to attack the enemy, its destructive power would be extremely strong. It even surpassed Long Yu's Berserk Dragon Fist when he stacked Berserk Heavenly Power to 170 levels. This was because the Berserk Dragon Fist attack range was relatively wide. When he punched out, the enemy's average force would be weaker. On the other hand, the power that erupted from this small golden sword was in the form of a beam. Its penetrative power was extremely strong. Moreover, with Long Yu's current cultivation realm, he could completely activate such an attack 5 times in a row before the energy in his body was exhausted. Taking advantage of this time, Long Yu self-destructed his physical body and reconstructed it so that he could use the full effect recovery elixir again in the next battle. Being able to obtain this small golden sword was quite good for Long Yu. He had another trump card. Sometimes, he might be able to use this move to break out of an encirclement. It would definitely have a miraculous effect. For example, if Long Yu had this small golden sword when he was in the advancement area, he would have been able to kill the ugly, tentacled alien and the slender cicada in a single blow. If he suddenly attacked, the opponent would definitely not be able to withstand it. This was because the small golden sword's attack was too strong and too fast. If the opponent was not as strong as the strongest machine race, they would not be able to react at all. Not bad, not bad. Long Yu was satisfied. Although he did not want this small golden sword in the beginning, he was extremely satisfied after obtaining it. This was because his current defensive methods were completely invincible among those of the same rank. Even if he encountered an expert of the 7th phase ruler rank, it would not be easy to break through his devil dust possession and battle-mad heavenly barrier. Moreover, his concealment methods were much better than others. Unless it was an existence of the demigod rank, it would be impossible to find where he was. Now, his offensive methods had also greatly improved. Originally, he had to wait for the battle-mad heavenly power to stack up to 170 layers, and then use a method of mutual destruction to deal with some 7th phase ruler rank existences. Now, just using this small golden sword was enough for Long Yu to deal with the majority of his opponents. At the very least, it could save him a lot of time. Opponents that would have taken him less than an hour to deal with now only needed a few breaths' time. In fact, he could even deal with them in one move. After obtaining this small golden sword, Long Yu first condensed his own Devil Dust clone. Then, he fought with the Devil Dust clone himself. After trying it out, even the Devil Dust clone, which had the same defense as his own body, could not withstand a single blow from the small golden sword. Right now, Long Yu could only use 1/10 of the small golden sword's power. Even though this was because Long Yu had directly pierced through the Devil Dust clone's Devil Dust heart and destroyed it, this was enough to show how powerful this type of God Source item was. Unfortunately, this small golden sword did not have its own consciousness. It was unable to communicate with Long Yu's mind. If Long Yu's body was controlled or his mind was disturbed, this thing would not be able to react automatically. However, on the other hand, if this small golden sword had its own consciousness, it would be impossible for Long Yu to subdue it. After familiarizing himself with how to use this small golden sword, Long Yu did not give a name. After all, there was no need for it. Immediately after, he began to open the next 2 purple crystal boxes. Long Yu opened one of the amethyst chests and discovered that it was an unremarkable gray stone. On the surface of the gray stone, there were some extremely strange patterns. These patterns were somewhat similar to the patterns that Long Yu had obtained from the core space of the 9 Hell Tablet. However, it seemed to contain some stronger power, which made Long Yu a little confused. He had never heard of such patterns. Even before he came here, Flamboyant, the demigod of the Demigod College, had never mentioned such things. Therefore, this made him quite interested in this gray stone. Chapter 1535. Long Yu began to study the gray stone. The strange patterns engraved on it were similar in nature to the mysterious patterns that Long Yu had already imprinted in his mind. They all contained some kind of power, but the patterns on the gray stone were a little special. Previously, Long Yu had already imprinted the 198 patterns of the pure world physique and the 132 patterns of the devil dust heart in his mind. In total, he had 330 patterns. Long Yu had estimated that he could only imprint about 500 patterns in his mind. Any more, and he would forget the patterns that he had previously imprinted. Since the patterns on the gray stone were somewhat similar to these mysterious patterns, Long Yu didn't hesitate and immediately tried to comprehend them. He tried to imprint them into his mind. This process took a long time for Long Yu. He did not even open the last purple crystal box. However, there was a lot of time to prepare for the fifth region. Even if the fifth region was opened, Long Yu did not necessarily need to leave immediately. After all, the fifth region was different from the advancement region. In the advancement region, Long Yu could take the lead and use some tricks to snatch a purple crystal box. However, in the fifth region, he did not dare to do so at all. On one hand, no one knew what the situation in the fifth region of the eroding moon ancient region was like. On the other hand, those who could come to the fifth region were the strongest of the strongest. Not to mention other things, just their deduction ability alone was much stronger than ordinary cultivators. Many of the foreign race experts were even super experts who were infinitely close to the demigod level. These experts might be able to discover the existence of Long Yu's illusory body. After about 7 days, Long Yu finally imprinted 1/3 of the patterns on the gray stone into his mind. At this time, he felt that there seemed to be some kind of change in his body. However, this change was not particularly obvious, and he could not sense what kind of change it was. He would probably have to wait until he completely imprinted the patterns on the stone. Long Yu continued to comprehend. After 20 days, the patterns on the gray stone were finally completely imprinted in Long Yu's mind. At this time, Long Yu finally understood the effect of the patterns on the gray stone. At the same time, the gray stone directly turned into powder in his hand. Obviously, this stone was only a one-time use item. It could only be imprinted once before it would break. After completely imprinting the patterns on the gray stone in his mind, Long Yu found that this pattern occupied about 100 martial arts secret technique patterns in his mind. In other words, Long Yu had originally engraved 330 mysterious patterns. Now, it was equivalent to having already engraved 430 mysterious patterns. There were only about 70 spots left to be engraved. Long Yu was not worried that there was not enough space in his mind. He was only left with the 66 mysterious patterns of the devil dust heart that he had not imprinted. If he imprinted of all of them, there would be just enough space. And now, the pattern that Long Yu engraved on the gray stone could be said to be a special pattern. The patterns seemed to be able to strengthen the secret martial arts. And the pattern was for the enhancement of the cultivator himself. Compared to before, the current Long Yu's combat power had not increased by much. However, his cultivation speed had greatly improved, especially in terms of comprehension of the various divine runes and powers. Long Yu estimated and felt it himself. He knew that his ability to comprehend power had at least increased by more than 5 times compared to before. In other words, the power of the divine text that he originally needed a month to comprehend could now be fully comprehended in less than 7 days. This speed and efficiency was obviously not the same level as before, and Long Yu's talent was not weak, and his level of compatibility with the various divine texts was quite high. Now that it had increased by 5 times, he felt that in the future, it would be a matter of course to comprehend any power. Long Yu felt that it was a pity he did not obtain the lines on the gray stone before. Otherwise, the amount of divine wine he consumed would only be 1/5 of what it was before. It would save him a lot of money. But things like this gray stone could only be obtained in the eroding moon ancient domain. It was impossible to find it in other places. Now, Long Yu still did not know what was going on with the mysterious patterns and the power of the pattern. This kind of power was probably something that could only be touched by demigods. Moreover, among the human race and the demon race, there was no demigod who understood this kind of power. This was not good news for Long Yu, because this meant that the cultivation path ahead of him was beginning to be full of fog. If there was no one to guide him on the path of cultivation, it was very likely that he would take some detours. It did not matter if he spent more time, but he was afraid that it would cause some irreversible consequences. But now, it was impossible for Long Yu to receive guidance from anyone. Among the human race and the demon race, even the demigod experts might not necessarily know more than Long Yu. Otherwise, Demigod Gaudi would definitely tell things like the pattern to the cultivators participating in the eroding moon ancient domain. Now that Long Yu had obtained the gray stone and carved the pattern on it, it would be of great help to his future cultivation path. But for the time being, it would not be able to improve his combat strength too much. This was also normal. Right now, Long Yu's combat strength could almost be said to have reached the limit of the 4th stage Great Sovereign. Unless he continued to improve his martial Dao realm, it would be very difficult for his overall combat strength to improve. This was the same as those peak 7th stage Great Sovereigns. Unless they stepped into the demigod realm, their strength would not be too far apart. Even though the Golden 6-Winged 6 and Consort Yu were ranked in the top 10, while Consort Yu was only ranked in the top 50, the difference in their combat strength was actually not very big. If they were to fight, the outcome of the battle would still depend on the state of both sides, the surrounding environment, and so on. The right time, the right place, and the right people were all indispensable. It could only be said that the Golden 6-Winged 6 had a slightly higher chance of winning than Consort Yu. After all, he was born in the powerful 6-Winged clan and had more means than Consort Yu, so he could adapt to a more complicated environment. Right now, Long Yu had the small golden sword, the upper unbounded grasp, and the fighting celestial body. Basically, he was invincible among those at the same stage. Even in the 6-Winged clan, if one wanted to obtain these cultivation and battle techniques, they would need to be at least a 7th stage great ruler. After all, cultivation resources were limited. Only the strongest members of the 6-Winged clan would be able to display their strongest combat strength. It was extremely rare for Long Yu to obtain these things in the eroding moon ancient domain with his own strength. Of course, one of the main reasons was that there was a remnant of the bone race in his small world. Moreover, this remnant of the bone race had a collection of the ancient, unbounded martial techniques of the human race and the demon race. The inheritance of the Geo Dragon Emperor could only be said to be a stepping stone for Long Yu to reach his current level. If he relied on the Geo Dragon Emperor alone, he would not be able to achieve what he had today. When the pattern was imprinted in his mind, Long Yu had already been in the preparation area for 20 days. He still had one purple crystal chest that he had yet to open. Among the first 2 purple crystal chests, one of them contained a small golden sword, while the other contained a gray stone. To Long Yu, both of them were things that could change his entire body. This showed how precious the purple crystal chests in the advancement area were. It was no wonder that the points required the cultivator to kill another alien race member to obtain them. 3 purple crystal chests meant that Long Yu had killed 3 other cultivation geniuses at his level. Moreover, those cultivation geniuses had walked further than him, and their overall strength was stronger than his. After opening the first 3 purple crystal chests, Long Yu was also looking forward to the last one. As Long Yu opened the chest, an extremely ancient aura came from it. This purple crystal chest did not contain anything but a power. This power was much stronger than all the powers that Long Yu had comprehended at his current level. Within the amethyst box, there was a constant stream of energy surging towards him, invading his body. However, this power did not harm him. Instead, it seemed to be helping him comprehend this power. This power was something that Long Yu had never come into contact with before. Could it be Eternity Divine Text? This was the thought that popped into Long Yu's mind. Before entering the eroding moon ancient region, the demigod Gaudi had mentioned about the existence above the Revelation Divine Text, and that was the Eternity Divine Text. If the Revelation Divine Text was derived from the power of the five elements, then the Eternity Divine Text was derived from the power of the five elements twice. Moreover, it was derived in a direction that was even more powerful. Unlike the Origin and Engraved Divine Texts that were weaker than the five elements, the Eternity Divine Text was the third level of power created by the gods. In ancient legends, the power of the five elements was known as the first level of power, and the Revelation Divine Text was the second level of power. Above the two were the Eternity Divine Texts. Apart from the Eternity Divine Text, Long Yu really could not think of what kind of power he felt when he opened the purple crystal chest. In the eyes of the gods, the power of the five elements was the basic power. The divine text that failed to derive was the Origin Divine Text. It became the source of the divine text in this world, but it was regarded as the most precious treasure by the human race, the demon race, and many other races. And if it succeeded, it would at least be the Revelation Divine Text. If it succeeded, it would be the Eternity Divine Text. It represented the power that only the gods could use. Thinking of this information, Long Yu's heart immediately began to race. Could it be that he had really obtained some kind of Eternity Divine Text? If that was the case, then he had made a huge profit. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.